Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku became the stepfather to Bakugo's daughter? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. The fluorescent lights of the Aldra primary cafeteria hummed, but not nearly as loud as the ringing in Izuki Bakugo's ears. She sat at the end of the long table, hunched over her bento box. Today, she'd chosen her favorite outfit, an oversized black hoodie with a faded skull on the back, a hand-me-down from her father's gym collection, and dark orange leggings that matched the highlights in her hero costume drawings with black Converse. Her hair, a chaotic storm of ash-blonde spikes, was pulled into two defiant pigtails. They didn't really flow, so much as they jutted out like twin explosions, held together by black rubber bands. Her spiked bangs everywhere in her face. "Hey, Bakugo. I didn't know the school started letting street urchins in for lunch." Izuki didn't look up. She knew that voice. It belonged to Hiroshi, a boy with a minor kinetic quirk and a major ego. "Go away, Hiroshi," Izuki muttered, her voice a low raspy growl that sounded eerily like a certain #1 hero. "Feeling brave are we?" Hiroshi sneered, stepping closer with two of his friends. He pointed a sticky finger at her head. "Look at that hair. It looks like you got struck by lightning in a dumpster. And why are you always dressed like you're going to a funeral? My mom says only weirdos wear that much black," he said, sitting down across from her. Izuki gripped her chopsticks tighter. "My dad wears black. And he's the strongest hero in the world. So shut it." "Oh, that's right. Your dad is dynamite," Hiroshi laughed, looking at his friends for backup. "Let me guess. You're gonna go home and tell your daddy on me?" Izuki ignores him and tries to keep eating. But the boy just wouldn't shut up. "You look like a boy trying to play dress-up in his closet. Seriously, are you sure you're a girl? You've got the face of a gremlin and hair like a porcupine." Izuki's eyes snapped up. They were a piercing, molten crimson, a direct genetic inheritance that usually made people back off. She felt the familiar prickle of heat in her palms, the sweat starting to bead. "I'm a girl, you idiot," she snapped. "Are you blind?" "You are?" Hiroshi mocked, reaching out to flick one of her rigid blonde pigtails. "Maybe you should wear a dress so we don't get confused." Izuki stood up fast. The heat in her chest was bubbling over, a cocktail of pride and spark. "Boys don't wear pigtails, you moron," she yelled, her voice echoing off the cafeteria walls. "Maybe they do if they're as ugly as..." Hiroshi didn't get to finish. Izuki didn't wait for a verbal comeback. She lunged across the table. Her small, pale fist connected squarely with Hiroshi's nose with a sickening thud. There was no explosion. She wasn't allowed to use her quirk in school, but the raw, physical force was enough to send the boy sprawling backward onto the floor. Silence fell over the lunchroom. Izuki stood, her chest heaving, her pigtails trembling with rage. She glared at the crying boy on the floor. "Call me a boy again," she hissed, "and I'll show you exactly how much I'm like my demon dad." In the car, Izuki sat stiffly in the back seat, arms crossed tight over her chest. She didn't look at him. Didn't look at anything. Just stared at the car floor, jaw clenched so hard it trembled. Katsuki leaned in, clicked her seatbelt into place with practiced efficiency, then braced an arm on the door and looked her dead in the eye. "When we get home," he said, voice low and stern, "we're talking. Got it?" Izuki swallowed. Didn't answer. He shut the door. The ride home was quiet. Too quiet. The front door barely finished swinging open before Izuki bolted. Backpack slipping off her shoulders, hitting the entryway floor with a heavy whump as she ran down the hall. "Oi!" Katsuki snapped automatically, kicking off his shoes, the irritation already building out of habit. "We have hooks for a reason." But she was gone before he finished the sentence. He sighed, long and sharp through his nose. He bent down, picked up the bag, and hung it neatly where it belonged. His jaw worked once, tension still there. But softer, now that he wasn't in dad picking up after his kid mode. Now he was in dad who knew something was wrong mode. He walked down the hall. He didn't need directions. He could hear the faint sniffing. Izuki's room was exactly her and her father. The walls were a warm, blazing orange, but not bright or cheerful the deeper, sunset shade Katsuki wore. Heavy black accents streaked through the decor like smoke-stained shadows. Posters of pro-heroes lined the walls, Dynamite front and center but surrounded by everyone she respected, Deku, Shoto, Mirko, even a worn poster of All Might in the corner. Her bedspread was black with splashes of orange like little explosions stitched across it. Hero figurines stood lined neatly on a shelf, except the ones she must have knocked over recently. A punching dummy sat in the corner, hands taped over and over again from practice. The room smelled faintly like caramelized smoke. But Izuki wasn't in sight. Katsuki stared once, then looked down. Under the bed, two trembling red eyes glared back at him from the darkness. Her cheeks were streaked with tears. Her breathing hitched in uneven bursts. She hugged her knees so tight it looked painful. He shut the bedroom door behind him with his heel and scrubbed a hand through his hair, already exhausted. Really? Under the DM in bed? She essayed in a shaky breath but didn't answer. He walked over until he stood beside the mattress, looming there. His voice didn't soften. But it wasn't sharp either. 5 seconds, he said firmly. Get out. 1. Silence. 2. Her breathing got faster. 3. Her fingers dug into her legs. 4. She still didn't move. He didn't even say 5. His hand shot under the bed and grabbed her ankle. No! Izuki shrieked, kicking wildly. No, 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 Dad, stop. Too demon bad, he muttered, dragging her out while she clawed desperately at the carpet, tears streaming harder. She thrashed like a feral cat. Let go! Let go! Leave me alone. Katsuki hauled her up under her arms like she weighed nothing. She twisted and fought, hitting his legs with her fists. Don't touch me. Her punches weren't strong. They were desperate, panicked. They hurt in a way fists never could. He dropped down to one knee, forcing himself to her level, catching her wrists gently but firmly. Hey, he snapped. Hey, stop that sheet. Look at me. She tried, but nothing came out beyond shattered sobbing. Her chest heaved. Her whole body shook. She gasped violently between cries, face crumpling, noise lodged somewhere between words and breath. Just raw, broken sounds. Tears poured faster. She couldn't talk. She couldn't breathe right. Everything was too much. Katsuki's brow furrowed. Hey, he murmured, voice dropping low, softer than he ever sounded in public. You're okay. Breathe, brat. She tried. She failed. He didn't waste another second. He pulled her into his chest. She let out a ragged, wounded sound when he did. The kind of sound that tore at the ribs. Her hands clutched desperately at his shirt, bunching the fabric in trembling fists. Her face buried into his shoulder instantly, hot tears soaking straight through. Her breath came in stuttered, broken hiccups against his neck. Katsuki stood, keeping her tight against him, one hand cupped protectively on the back of her head, the other supporting her back. Then he sat down on her bed with her still clinging to him like she'd drown if she let go. Shoo, he muttered gruffly, rubbing slow circles between her shoulder blades. Hey, I got you. Calm down. Her body shook against him. It's okay, he said softly. You're safe. Breathe for me, yeah? She sobbed harder, face buried deep into his shoulder like she wanted to disappear there. He didn't push her away. Didn't bark. Didn't scold. He just held his kid. Shoo, he whispered again, patting her back in a steady rhythm. Daddy's here. You're all right. Just breathe, Sparkler. Late that night, the apartment was finally quiet. Izuki's door was closed. The soft hum of the hallway heater filled the silence. The living room lamp cast a warm glow over the couch where Katsuki slumped down, arms folded, shoulders tense like they always were when too many feelings were involved. Izuku sat beside him, leaning back slowly with a sigh, eyes still distant in that thinking 3 steps ahead way. He stared forward for a moment before finally speaking. She seemed quieter today, Izuku murmured. When I tucked her in, she barely said anything. She didn't even finish her dinner. Katsuki didn't answer right away. Izuku's brows pinched. Kaken, what happened? Katsuki exhaled, long and slow. She punched some brat at school today. Izuku's head snapped toward him. She what? Don't start. Katsuki scrubbed a hand over his face. Kid was running his mouth, but she was so wound up I couldn't get a demon word out of her. She cried herself ragged. I barely got her breathing right. Izuku stared at him. Then his expression shifted. A little hurt. A little annoyed. Kaken, why didn't you tell me sooner? Katsuki's eyes flicked over with mild irritation. Because I'm handling it. Izuku's jaw tensed. That's not the point. We're supposed to do this together. I am her dad too now, you know. I may not have been there in the beginning, but I am now. I can help. I said relax. Katsuki leaned back, voice dropping into something firmer. I've got it under control. Izuku looked at him, disbelief clear on his face. How exactly do you have it under control, Kaken? Katsuki turned his head sharply, eyes narrowing just a bit. You say that like you don't trust me. Izuku didn't answer immediately. Just looked at him. Quietly doubtful. Katsuki scowled. Quit makin' that DMN face. Izuku blinked. What face? That one. Katsuki jabbed a finger toward him, agitation prickling under his skin. The oh no Kaken's gonna screw this up again face. He reached over and shoved Izuku's face away with his palm. Izuku squawked. Hey! Don't look at me like that, Katsuki muttered. Izuku's hand shot out on instinct, grabbing Katsuki's forearm and stopping him from retreating. Kaken, Izuku said quietly. You still take things too far sometimes. Just like when we were kids. I don't want. He didn't get to finish. Katsuki leaned in suddenly, hand sliding up, grabbing Izuku's cheeks in one big rough palm, squeezing them slightly so his lips puckered. Listen, nerd, Katsuki growled, lowering his face so close Izuku could feel his breath. You should trust me more than anyone. Got it? Izuku's eyes widened, then softened. Kaken. Izuku tries to speak with his lips squeezed together. Katsuki snorted. Your lips look like a puckered a-hole, he muttered. He tugged Izuku forward the last inch and pressed his mouth against his. It was firm and grounding, the kind of kiss that wasn't asking for permission, it was reminding him. Trust me, damn it. Izuku melted into it almost instantly, hands lifting to Katsuki's wrist, thumb brushing the scarred skin there gently as he kissed him back, heart pounding but calmer now. Katsuki didn't pull away fast. He lingered. Just long enough to make the message clear. Then he finally broke the kiss with a quiet exhale, their foreheads resting together for a moment. I'm gonna handle it, he said softly this time. In the meantime, work on your fucking trust issues, damn it. Izuku swallowed. All right, fine. But you better. Parents' Day at the school was loud and chaotic, but Izuki seemed completely unbothered. She practically dragged Katsuki through the classroom, pointing out everything she wanted him to see. Dad, look, this is my desk. And my cubby. And over here is my art project, she exclaimed. Katsuki followed with his hands in his pockets, pretending to be annoyed, but he let her take the lead. They stopped first at the wall display of student drawings. Izuki slapped her hand against a bright orange sheet where she had drawn a hero in mid-explosion, jagged black and orange lines everywhere. Across the top, she had written in big messy letters, "When I grow up, pro-hero like my dad." It's awesome, kiddo, Katsuki said, glancing at the drawing. Izuki grinned and bounced toward another display. And these are my hero costume designs. That one's a rescue suit, that one's my winter outfit. Sensei said they're very aggressive, but I think they're great. Katsuki gave a short laugh. Good taste runs in the family. Before Izuki could show him anything else, 3 girls from the class suddenly shrieked and ran over, nearly crashing into Katsuki all at once. Whoa, hey! Katsuki barked instinctively, taking a half step back. Watch it! No tackling the hero, brats, this ain't a rescue drill. The girls froze for half a second, then immediately started talking over each other. You're really dynamite, My mom says you're scary, but I think you're cool. Can you blow up the school so we can stay home tomorrow? Katsuki pinched the bridge of his nose. I ain't blowing anything up, he grumbled. And personal space, ever heard of it? Hands to yourselves. They giggled, completely unfazed. Izuki stood beside him, hands on her hips, chest puffed out with pride, grinning like she'd personally summoned the chaos. Yeah, that's my dad, the coolest parent here, she said smugly. Katsuki glanced down at her, clicked his tongue and muttered, Don't encourage him. Hiroshi watched from across the room, his jaw tightening as he took in the sight of Izuki standing proudly beside her father. Seeing dynamite there in person didn't impress him the way it impressed everyone else. It just made something sour twist in his stomach, but also built fear. He leaned toward his friends and scoffed under his breath, loud enough to be heard. Figures. The loud, violent freak shows up to a kindergarten like he belongs here. One of the boys snorted. My dad says he's basically a walking anger issue. Hiroshi smirked. Yeah. And she's just like him. All bark, no brain. Izuki didn't hear it. Katsuki did. His eyes slid across the room with slow precision and locked onto Hiroshi. There was no surprise in his expression, no confusion. Just recognition. The kind that made Hiroshi's smirk falter as every muscle in his body went tense. The boy beside Hiroshi went pale, his eyes flicking toward the front of the room and then snapping back. He leaned in quickly and whispered, Oh shit, dude. I think he heard you. Hiroshi snorted and rolled his eyes, trying to act brave. So? What's he gonna do, blow me up? Katsuki's eyes locked onto the boy. So that's the little sheet who's been messing with my kid. By the time school ended, Hiroshi moved slowly, packing his things and glancing nervously toward the classroom doorway. He finally left, deciding to stop by the bathroom before heading home. As he stepped inside the boys' bathroom, he tried to calm himself. He'd never admit it out loud, but he was scared of Katsuki. And there was a deep secret he held as to why. He finished at the urinal and moved to the sink to wash his hands, but when he turned, he froze. Katsuki was standing near the door, arms crossed, watching him with a steady, unblinking gaze. Hiroshi jolted, a cold wave of panic washing over him as sweat ran down his back. A strangled, high-pitched sound tore from his throat. His chest tightened, heart hammering so hard it echoed in his ears. I admit, don't come any closer, he stammered, stumbling backward. His knees wobbled, legs threatening to buckle under him, and his wide eyes reflected pure terror. Katsuki's gaze locked on him, sharp and unblinking. The boy's panic didn't soften him. Listen, Katsuki said, voice low, gruff, carrying weight. We gotta talk. Aye. I've got nothing to say. I don't want to talk to you. Hiroshi stammered, his voice cracking. He pressed himself against the sink, his breaths coming in sharp, uneven gasps. Katsuki stepped closer, boots scraping softly against tile. His shadow crawled up the boy's chest and swallowed his face. You've been bullying my kid. Hiroshi's chin lifted on instinct, shoulders squared too stiff to be natural. His fingers twitched at his sides. No, I haven't, he snapped, though his voice wobbled. You got it wrong, old man. I didn't do anything. Katsuki tilted his head, eyes narrowing a fraction. His arms stayed loose, but his presence pressed down like weight. Careful, he said. Lying's a stupid move. Hiroshi swallowed hard. His chest hitched, breaths coming sharp and shallow. Every war clip he'd ever seen crashed together until Katsuki stopped looking human and turned into something unstoppable. I'm dead. This is it. Katsuki leaned in just enough for Hiroshi to smell smoke. You know what happens, he said quietly, when little brats mess with my kid? The boy's bravado cracked. His heel slid back. Then his knees gave. Panicked, he stumbled back, shoulders slamming into the sink with a dull thud before he dropped, pushing himself back with his hands and feet. He curled under the sink, arms wrapping over his head like a shield. I. Hiroshi barked, anger flaring bright and desperate. I don't know what you're talking about. I never did anything, mister. Katsuki followed, boots stopping just short of the boy's shoes. He then leans down, glaring at the kid. You think hiding is gonna help you? You think I didn't hear you talking in the classroom? Do you think I'm an idiot? That was when Hiroshi lost it. Okay, fine, he screamed, voice tearing raw. His hands flew up, palms out, shaking so hard his fingers blurred. I'm sorry. I won't touch her again, just get away from me. Katsuki crouched, one hand braced on the sink's edge. The porcelain creaked under his grip. Up close, he could see at Hiroshi's knees knocking, his whole body vibrating. The intense terror in his eyes. Katsuki's eyes softened a little with concern, but he didn't hold back. Why the hell is he this scared? What's wrong with you? Stop freaking out, Katsuki snapped. I just want to know, why are you bullying her? Hiroshi pressed his back into the wall, spine bowed, eyes darting wildly. His jaw clenched hard enough to make it tremble. I didn't do anything that bad, he muttered, voice thin. Katsuki's glare sharpened. Cut the crap. Why are you messing with my kid, damn it? Just answer the question. A sharp, broken cry burst out of Hiroshi. His shoulders jerked with it. Because she acts untouchable. Because she thinks she's special just 'cause she's yours. And I hate it. I want to be the strongest. Tough guy excuse, Katsuki growled. His teeth clicked as his jaw set. Picking on someone till they feel small doesn't make you strong. I know. Hiroshi screamed, fists knotting in his shirt. The fabric stretched under his grip. I know that. His breath hitched violently. I didn't want to be the only one scared. Katsuki stilled. Now a bit confused. What the hell are you dash? Hiroshi's head jerked up, eyes red and wet. The words came out in a rush, messy and loud. Everyone likes you, he cried. Even after you did the bad thing. I saw it on the war show that Daddy showed from long ago. You killed a baby. But nobody cares. Nobody's scared of you like I am. He hiccuped, fists balling up in his shirt. You're a bad guy, he shouted. You're a murderer. And Izuki keeps saying she's gonna be like you when she's big. She says it all the time. Fresh tears spilled over. So I gotta make sure she doesn't mess with me. I want her scared of me. To see how strong I am, he yelled. Just in case she's bad like you. Just in case she wants to hurt people. Katsuki's shoulders went rigid. His jaw locked, a muscle jumping along his cheek. He almost wanted to chuckle at how dumb this kid was sounding. Is this kid serious? Damn, is this really the shit that goes on in a 5-year-old's head? Damn it, stop and breathe for a second. That wasn't a kid, he said flatly. That was all for one rewinding himself to nothing. I didn't murder a child. Heroes don't mess people up for fun. Get your facts right, kid, next time so you don't get yourself all worked up. Hiroshi shook harder, breath coming in wet gasps. His hands slid down to clutch at his knees like anchors. So that's it, Katsuki said. You went after her because you're scared of me? Yes. Hiroshi shouted, the word ripping out of him. His head dropped forward. If I picked on her first, then I wouldn't look weak. Silence stretched. Katsuki let out a sigh. Being scared doesn't make you weak, he said, voice rough but even. Hiroshi peeked up through his fingers, trembling. Taking it out on someone else does. Katsuki stood, then stepped back one step, then another, putting space between them. If you actually were scared of her growing up to hurt you, why make her your enemy instead of your friend? Like, come on, kid. I know you're 5, but DMN. The boy wiped his nose again on his sleeve. I just wanted to be the strongest. To make sure nobody ever messed with me. You don't get it. She did want me as a friend. But the more she talked of you, it got too scary to be friends with her. Katsuki let out a breath to calm himself some. Listen, I'm not going to tolerate you messing with my kid. If you can't be her friend, then just leave her alone. Katsuki stood up and turned toward the door. Also, heroes make ugly calls so innocent people don't die, he said without looking back. That doesn't make us villains. I was simply doing my job, kid. So you have nothing to fear. Not from me or Izuki. If heroes wanted to kill, then why would they care about protecting anyone at all? The door then clicked shut. Hiroshi stayed curled under the sink, chest heaving, knuckles white against the tile shaking, but finally listening. What Katsuki or the kid didn't realize was they weren't alone in there. An older boy, just 6 years old, had been sitting in a stall, listening to the whole thing. Back at the apartment, Izuki sat at the dinner table with her legs swinging under the chair, heels thumping softly against the wood. She poked at her food with her fork, pushing peas into a little pile and then breaking it apart again, chewing very slowly. Her shoulders tight in a way that didn't match her usual loud, opinionated dinnertime energy. Izuku took a bite of his food and smiled at her. "So," he said gently, "how was your day, kiddo?" Izuki jolted like she'd been shocked. She gasped, inhaled at the wrong moment from the question, and suddenly started coughing, her face going red as she clutched at her chest. Izuku was out of his chair instantly. "Oh, Izuki!" He moved behind her and started patting her back, a little too light, a little too panicked. Katsuki's chair scraped loudly against the floor. "That's not how you do it," he barked, already grabbing Izuki under the arms and standing her on the chair. He repositioned her fast and sharp, one arm around her middle, the other hand clenched just above her stomach. "Breathe, minute." He performed the Heimlich with practiced force. Twice. Izuki gagged, Katsuki jerked hard. And the blockage came free. She ethed in a shaky breath and then immediately burst into tears. "You're okay. You're okay," Izuku said quickly, crouching in front of her, hands hovering like he wasn't sure where to touch. Katsuki steadied her by the shoulders, his grip firm but careful. Izuki shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. I gotta pee," she cried suddenly, voice breaking. She slipped out of Katsuki's hands, jumped off the chair and bolted down the hall, socked feet slapping against the floor before the bathroom door slammed shut. Izuku blinked. That was weird. Katsuki frowned but didn't say anything as he picked up the chunk of food off the floor that his daughter just spit out. "I'll go check on her," Izuku said, already standing. He walked down the hall and stopped outside the bathroom door. He could hear soft, broken sounds on the other side, little whimpers, breath hitching unevenly. He knocked lightly. "Izuki? Sweetheart? Are you okay?" No answer. Just more whimpering. Izuku lowered his voice, soft and warm. "It's just me. You don't have to be scared. Can you unlock the door for Deku?" There was a long pause. Then the lock clicked. Izuku eased the door open and slipped inside, closing it gently behind him. Izuki wasn't using the toilet like she'd said. She was sitting on top of the closed lid, feet dangling, hands clenched in her hoodie sleeves. Her shoulders were hunched, her face blotchy and wet with tears. Izuku sat down slowly on the edge of the tub, turning his body toward her. "Hey," he said quietly. "What's wrong?" Izuki sniffed hard, her lip trembling. She stared at the floor for a moment before whispering, There's people saying stuff." Izuku's expression shifted, concern deepening. "What kind of stuff, baby?" She wiped her nose on her sleeve and leaned forward, curling in on herself. Her voice dropped even lower. "The kids at school. They say Daddy killed a baby." Her eyes filled again. And I'm scared." Izuku froze. He stared at her, shock flashing across his face. He swallowed. "Izuki, do you know how something like that even started?" She shook her head quickly, tears splashing onto her leggings. I don't know, she cried softly. "But everyone's talking about it at school, and now they're saying, I got a killer for a daddy." Izuku stood and stepped closer, then gently lifted Izuki up from the toilet lid. She clung to his shirt immediately, little arms wrapping around his neck as her face pressed into his shoulder, lightly sobbing. He supported her easily, one hand firm between her shoulder blades, the other under her legs. Hey, he murmured, voice soft and steady. "Your daddy loves you more than anything in the world. You hear me? More than anything. He would never do anything bad to you. Or your friends. Or anyone." Izuki sniffled, her breathing slowly evening out as she nodded against his shoulder. Izuku carried her down the hall, her weight warm in his arms. When they reached her room, lowered her carefully onto the bed, pulling the blankets up around her small body. She curled onto her side, clutching the edge of the blanket in her fists, eyes still shiny but calmer now. Izuku brushed her hair back gently with his fingers. Try to get some rest, okay? It's late. I love you, Izuki said quietly, her voice small but certain. Izuku smiled. This was the first time Izuki had told him that she loved him. And it made him want to jump with joy. I love you too, he said warmly, trying to hold back his excitement. He turned toward the door, hand already reaching for the knob, when her voice stopped him. Deku? He paused and turned back. Did Daddy really kill a baby? Izuku's breath caught for just a second. Then he smiled soft, calm and walked back to her bedside. He knelt so they were eye level. No, he said gently. That's not true at all. Not even a little bit. You don't have to worry, okay? Izuki watched his face for a long moment, then nodded, eyelids finally starting to droop. Izuku stood, quietly closed the door, and walked back toward the kitchen, rubbing the back of his neck as the weight of the situation settled in. Katsuki was at the sink, sleeves pushed up, hands in soapy water. He turned when he heard Izuku's footsteps. She okay? Izuku hesitated, then nodded slowly. She will be. But there's a little problem. He explained everything: Izuki's fear, the rumor, the words she'd repeated. Katsuki's shoulders locked as Izuku finished explaining. For a second, he didn't move at all, then he shoved the plate down into the sink with a sharp clang. Unbelievable, he muttered. I fucking knew it. Izuku blinked. Knew what? He asked. Kaken, who are you talking about? Katsuki turned, water dripping from his hands, jaw set hard. The kid at school. The one who's been messing with Izuki. He must have started a bunch of shit. Izuku stiffened. You talked to her bully at her school? Yeah, Katsuki said flatly. Yesterday. You without telling me or talking to me about it beforehand? Izuku's voice jumped despite himself. Don't start. I didn't do anything crazy, Katsuki snapped. I pulled him aside. Asked him what his problem was. Told him to stay the hell away from my kid. Izuku dragged a hand through his hair, panic edging in. Kaken, you never handle things calmly. That kid must have been terrified. Good, Katsuki shot back. Fear makes idiots think twice. Izuku spun toward him. No, it makes them spiral. He's a child, you just poured gasoline on the situation. No wonder everything got worse. Katsuki's eyes flashed. Oh, so it's my fault then? So what, I'm supposed to smile and hope the problem fixes itself while my kid comes home crying? That's not what I said. Izuku snapped. I'm saying there was a smarter way to handle it. Katsuki scoffed. Here it comes. Izuku took a step closer, voice tight. There it is again. Every time I try to step in, you act like I'm getting in the way. You treat me like I'm useless when it comes to being a father. What the hell, nerd? Are you on drags? Don't do that, Kaken, Izuku said, sharper now. You rush in, explode, push me away when I try to help, and then I'm left trying to clean up. And when I say something, you act like I'm attacking you. Katsuki's hands clenched. I don't need you telling me how to be a parent. Izuku's voice cracked. And I don't need you treating me like I'm not her father too now. Silence hit hard between them. Izuku stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on Katsuki's arm. She's scared, he said carefully. What she needs right now is reassurance. Katsuki yanked the dish rag off the counter and threw it down. She shouldn't be scared of me at all, he snapped. This is bullshit. Izuku let out a shaky breath, then spoke again, quieter, but heavier. Kaken, I know I wasn't there at the start. His hands twisted together at his sides. I know you carried her alone for a long time. Katsuki didn't look at him, but he stopped pacing. I'm here now, Izuku continued, voice firm despite the emotion in it. And I want to be in it. All of it. The good, the bad, the scary parts. Not on the sidelines. Not cleaning up after you. With you. Katsuki's jaw tightened, not in anger this time but something closer to strain. I'm not asking you to step back, Izuku said. I'm asking you to stop trying to do everything by yourself. Please, let me help. Let me be her parent too. The word hung in the air. For a long moment, Katsuki said nothing. Then he exhaled hard, running a hand through his hair. He clicked his tongue, frustrated. You make it sound easy. It's not, Izuku said softly. But doing it alone isn't either. Katsuki finally looked at him. Really looked. Fine, he muttered. I'll work on it. Izuku's shoulders loosened like something heavy had finally lifted. Thank you. The next day, Izuki's sneakers squeaked loudly against the hallway floor as she walked into school. She barely made it 10 steps before she felt eyes on her. Kids leaned together, whispering behind their hands. Someone giggled. Someone else pointed and then pretended not to. Izuki scowled. She hated this. By the time she reached her classroom, the whispers weren't even quiet anymore. That's her, a kid muttered. My friend said her dad killed a child, another whispered, not bothering to lower his voice. Izuki slammed her backpack onto her desk. Her shoulders squared and her fists balled so tight they shook. Hi, she yelled, stomping her foot so hard her chair rattled. Knock it off. My dad's a hero, not a bad guy, and if you keep talking, I'm gonna bust your teeth in. A few kids snickered. One boy leaned back in his chair, smirking. Sure, heroes don't kill babies. But everybody knows your dad did. How embarrassing is that? Izuki's eyes flashed. That's a lie, she shouted. Then she jabbed a finger straight at Keiki. And you're one to talk about something being embarrassing. You still can him, you pee on your shoes. The room went dead silent for half a second. Then laughter exploded. Keiki shot to his feet. What? No, I don't. That's fake. You're making it up. Izuki crossed her arms, unimpressed. Look down. A kid squinted down at Keiki's feet. Dude, your socks are yellow. The class lost it. Kids howled, pointing, chanting his name. For once, no one was looking at Izuki. Keiki shrieked something unintelligible and dropped back into his seat, face burning. From the doorway, Hiroshi walked in and immediately stiffened. Izuki noticed right away. His hands curled into fists. His shoulders hunched. He didn't smirk. He didn't say anything. He didn't even look at her. That was weird. Izuki narrowed her eyes. As he passed her desk, she leaned toward him. What's wrong with you? She hissed. Why aren't you running your mouth like everybody else? I didn't start it, Hiroshi blurted out, voice cracking. Izuki blinked. I didn't even ask that. I just want to sit down, he mumbled, already backing away. She stared at him, confused. No teasing. No insults. No smug grin. He looked scared? That made absolutely no sense. After class, Hiroshi grabbed his bag and bolted like his shoes were on fire. Everything was fine right up until Hiroshi shoved through the first set of the double doors at the front of the school. Hey! Izuki shouted. Her voice cracked through the outside of the entryway like a fire alarm. Hiroshi jolted so hard his whole body jumped, shoulders snapping up to his ears. He half spun, breath punching out of his chest as his heart slammed wildly against his ribs. Izuki stood a few feet away, feet planted wide in her scuffed sneakers. Her hands were slammed onto her hips, elbows jutting out, chest puffed like she could physically stop him from escaping. Her face was twisted tight, not just angry, but confused, hurt, and demanding answers all at once. Why are you acting so weird? She yelled. Hiroshi's throat bobbed. He turned away fast and started walking again, almost tripping over his own feet as his backpack smacked against his back. I don't want to talk to you, he snapped, voice sharp but shaky. Izuki growled and chased after him, short legs pumping to keep up. Then why'd you say all that stuff in class? She fired back. You know who started talking about me, don't you? Hiroshi skidded to a stop, shoes scraping. He spun around, fists balled tight. No, I don't, he yelled. Then stop running, she yelled. I'm not running, he shouted back, somehow speeding up anyway. Yes you are, she shot back. You didn't even look at me all day. You didn't call me names. You didn't do anything. That's 'cause I don't want trouble, he barked. Izuki darted in front of him, planting herself squarely in his path. He nearly crashed into her, skidding to a stop with a startled squeak. Why? She demanded, hands clenched at her sides, chest puffed out. You always want trouble. Hiroshi's eyes flicked around like he was looking for a way past her. Move, he said, voice thin. No. Move. No. He tried to sidestep her. Izuki hopped sideways with him, blocking him again. You're being weird. Stop doing that, he yelled, panic flashing across his face. Then stop lying, she shot back. You said you didn't start anything, and I didn't even ask you that yet. Why would you say that unless you know who did? Hiroshi's jaw clenched. I don't. You do. I don't. You look like you do. He shoved past her shoulder and broke into a run. Hey! Izuki shouted, spinning and chasing after him again. Don't run away from me. I said leave me alone, he yelled, feet pounding, arms pumping awkwardly as he sprinted toward the last set of doors. Izuki ran after him, breathing hard. Then tell me the truth. He reached the double doors and shoved one open. And Izuki slid in front of him again, skidding to a stop with her arms spread wide. Why won't you just say it? She demanded, face red, eyes blazing. Did you start it or not? Hiroshi staggered back like he'd hit a wall. His chest heaved, breaths sharp and uneven. No, he screamed. I didn't. Then who did? I don't know. That's a lie. Stop saying that. He tried to bolt again, but Izuki grabbed the strap of his backpack. The sudden tug yanked him backward, and he squeaked, stumbling. Don't touch me, he yelled, twisting around, eyes wet and furious. Then stop running, she yelled right back. I just want to know who started all this. His hands shook as he shoved her hand away and backed up, breathing fast, like he was about to explode. You don't get it, he snapped. You don't get anything. Then explain it. I can't. Yes, you can. No, I can't. Why not? His voice broke completely. Because of your dad. The words hit the air and just hung there. Izuki froze. Hiroshi's shoulders slumped as if all the fight drained out of him at once. He cornered me, he muttered, not looking at her. He was mad. Because of me messing with you. I don't want problems. I don't want you. I don't want him. Izuki stared at him, lips parted, her hands slowly curling into fists again, but this time they were shaking. I didn't start the rumors, so maybe your dumb dad did. Maybe someone heard him talking, he said. I swear. That's all I know. Now stop following me. Then he turned and walked away. This time, Izuki didn't chase him. She stood there, chest tight, ears ringing, his words replaying over and over in her head. My dad. My dad. My dad? Before she could move, a shadow popped up behind her. Hey, a boy snickered, leaning in way too close, breath hot and smug. Murderer's baby. Izuki spun around so fast her pigtails jerked through the air. Her fists came up, shaking. My daddy is not a murderer, she screamed, eyes glossy with fury. The boy rocked back a step, then puffed his chest out. Then why's everyone saying it, huh? He shot back. You can't all be wrong. Even the big kids know. They're lying. Izuki yelled, stomping her foot. You're just dumb. My dad saves people. He saves lots of people. The boy laughed, sharp and ugly. Yeah. Then why'd he kill a baby? Bet you cry about it at home. That did it. Izuki made a broken, furious noise in her throat and swung without thinking. Her fist slammed into his cheek with a solid thud. The boy yelped, stumbling backward. Hey! What the? You shut up! Izuki shrieked, chest heaving. You don't get to talk about my dad. One of the boy's friends rushed forward. Hey! Don't hit him! They then swung on her. Izuki dropped low, ducking clumsy hands and lashing out with her foot. Get away from me! Her sneaker connected with a shin. Another kid squeaked and hopped back, grabbing his leg. Oh! She kicked me! She's crazy! Someone yelled. Stop her! Izuki spun again, wild and fast, kicking and shoving, her movements messy but fueled by pure anger. Leave me alone. All of you leave me alone. Kids tripped over each other trying to grab her. Someone fell. Someone else shouted. The outside echoed with squeaks, yelps, and panicked yelling. One teacher noticed and immediately rushed to try and break up the fight. Meanwhile, an engine roared. Tires screeched sharply against pavement. Katsuki's car skidded into the lot preparing to pick up his hid. He looked up and saw his daughter in the middle of a swarm, fists clenched, chest pumping hard as kids stumbled away from her. A teacher yelling and trying to break them up. "Sheet," he snarled, already tearing his seatbelt free. The door flew open, and Katsuki ran. Back at home, Izuku was hunched over his desk, shoulders rounded and pen scratching steadily across paper, when the apartment door slammed so hard the frame rattled. "I did not start it." "Yes, you did." Katsuki's voice thundered back. Izuku jolted, pen dragging a dark line across the page. He pushed his reading glasses up just as heavy shoes thudded across the floor. A backpack flew off a shoulder and hit the wall before sliding down with a soft thump. "Everyone hates me now," Izuku screamed. Izuku winced, already rising from his chair. "What is going on?" Katsuki walked into the living room, shoulders squared and jaw locked, with Izuku storming after him. Her tiny fists were clenched so tight her knuckles had gone pale, her face blotchy and wet with tears that she wasn't even trying to wipe away anymore. "Everyone hates me because of you," she shrieked, voice cracking so hard it squealed at the end. Katsuki spun around sharply, hands flying up in exasperation. "That does not mean you get into fights with everybody." "I didn't fight everybody," she yelled, bouncing on the ball of her feet. "I just hit them a little. Only 6 of them. Everybody would be the whole school." "That is not better." Izuku stomped, heels slamming into the floor over and over. "Now I'll never have friends ever again," she wailed, throwing her head back so dramatically she nearly lost her balance. "Ever. Not even one. And it's your fault. You ruin everything." Katsuki dragged a hand down his face. "Oh my God. You ruin school. You ruin all good things. You ruin my whole life," she sobbed, scrubbing at her eyes with her sleeves and smearing tears everywhere. "I'm gonna be alone forever and live with cats. You don't even like cats." "So, Izuku, I'm not in the mood right now," Katsuki roared, planting his feet. "You're grounded." Izuku froze mid-sniffle. "What?" "Grounded," he snapped, pointing sharply toward the hallway. "And since you're grounded, friends aren't even a topic right now. So this conversation is over." Her mouth fell open, hands dropping limply to her sides. "You can't do that," she screamed, stomping again. "I didn't do anything bad. It's final, Izuku." She burst into louder crying, shoulders shaking violently. "I hate you," Katsuki yelled back. "Fine. Go hate me in your room." Izuku rushed out of his office then, palms raised instinctively, stepping between them before it could escalate further. Okay, what is happening?" Izuku spun and bolted toward him, wrapping herself around his leg, her small hands clutching at his pant leg as if she might fall apart if she let go. "Deku," she sobbed. "Daddy ruined my whole life." Katsuki threw his arms wide. "She started a fight with 6 kids. They called me names. You threw the first punch and you know better than that. This has happened twice this week, Izuku." Izuku stiffened, his grip on her shoulder tightening slightly. "All right, let's just calm down, Dash." Izuku pressed her face into Izuku's leg, voice muffled but furious. "I'll never have friends again and it's all his fault and now I'm grounded and it's not fair and—" "Izuku," Izuku said firmly, crouching down and gently easing her hands away from his leg. He tipped her chin up so she had to look at him. "Calm down." She hiccuped, chest shuddering, lower lip trembling dangerously. Izuku brushed her hair back behind her ear. "Go to your room for a few minutes, okay? We'll talk after." "But—" "Room," Katsuki repeated. She turned slowly, throwing Katsuki a final betrayed glare. "I hate you." Katsuki crossed his arms, sighing. She mumbled, then stormed down the hall, feet paddling against the floor before her bedroom door slammed so hard the wall shook. Silence dropped like a weight. Izuku straightened and turned to Katsuki. "Kaken." Katsuki broke away first. He turned sharply and stalked toward the kitchen. He yanked open a cabinet harder than necessary, the door rattling as he grabbed a glass. His hands weren't shaking, but they were tense enough that the glass clinked loudly against the counter when he set it down. "My nerves are shot," he growled, shoving the glass under the tap. Water splashed up against the sides as he filled it too fast. Stretched thin as hell. Izuku lingered near the doorway, arms folding loosely over his chest. "This is why I said you shouldn't have stepped in like that." Katsuki stiffened. "Not now, Deku." Izuku didn't raise his voice. That somehow made it worse. "You went in hot. You scared a kid. And now Izuki's paying for it." Katsuki turned sharply. "Don't start, I'm not in the mood." She came home screaming that everyone hates her, she's too young to be dealing with this kind of stuff. Izuku said, finally stepping closer. Katsuki dragged a hand through his hair, pacing the length of the counter. "Look, I admit, getting involved had its consequences. But I can't just let this slide. She's gotten into 2 fights this week, Izuku." "Yeah, you're right," Izuku said. "But also be a little more understanding. This wasn't her fault, Kaken." Silence stretched, heavy and raw. Katsuki looked away first, staring down at the floor. His hands curled into fists, then slowly relaxed. "I just wanted to protect her," he admitted, voice low and rough. Izuku's tone softened instantly. "I know." From down the hall, Izuki's muffled yell cut through the tension. "I can still hear you. Stop talking about me." Katsuki groaned, tipping his head back. Izuku snickered a little, despite himself. "She gets her temper from you." Katsuki shook his head, a tired huff escaping him as he picked up the glass again. Over the next several days, the bullying at school didn't let up. Izuki kept trying to figure out who had spread the rumor. She knew her dad started it, but figuring out who had spread it was being a pill. Every time she asked, kids suddenly found the ceiling fascinating or clamped their mouths shut. Nobody wanted to be a rat. At home, she was stuck writing out her punishment, and for a 5-year-old, that felt like the end of the world. 1 full week. No TV. No toys. No friends. Katsuki had laid it out very clearly. Unfortunately for him, Izuki was 5. So rules felt more like a suggestion. That afternoon, the bathroom fan whirred loudly as Katsuki showered. Steam curled out from under the door. Izuki lingered in the hallway, rocking back and forth on her heels, head tilted, listening hard. Water. Fin. No yelling. No footsteps. She crept into the living room, toes barely lifting off the floor. She climbed onto the couch, knees tucked under her, grabbed the remote with both hands, and clicked the TV on. The screen flashed to life. She immediately mashed the volume button down until it was barely more than a whisper and flipped to her favorite cartoon. Izuki melted into the cushions, shoulders loosening, eyes wide and glued to the screen. A tiny smile crept across her face. Just a little. Just 1 episode. Then after 15 minutes, the water shut off. Her whole body snapped stiff. She scrambled for the remote, stabbing the power button. "Come on, turn off," she hissed. Nothing. She squinted at the screen as a message popped up about dead batteries. Unable to fully read yet. She didn't understand. Her lip trembled. Why isn't it cutting off? Then the front door unlocked and panic exploded through her chest. She dropped the remote, slid off the couch, and bolted down the hallway. She burst into her room, yanked open her closet, crawled inside, and slammed it shut. She wedged herself behind the laundry hamper, curling into a tight ball, arms wrapped around her knees, breath coming in short, shaky pulls. Izuku stepped into the apartment moments later, shrugging his bag off his shoulder as the door clicked shut behind him. Soft cartoon voices drifted from the living room. He stopped mid-step. "Oh no. Izuki?" he called, voice careful, already knowing the answer. "Nothing." He walked farther in, eyes immediately snapping to the glowing TV screen. Bright colors flashed across it. His brows drew together, concern knitting tight between them. "Izuki?" he tried again, louder this time. Still nothing. He crossed the room and picked up the remote, thumb pressing the power button once. Twice. He flipped it over, tried again, then let out a small breath as understanding set in. He set the remote gently on the counter. Dead batteries. His gaze swept the room. No Izuki. A tight knot formed in his chest. Izuki, he called again, already moving down the hallway now, footsteps quickening. Sweetheart. He peeked into the spare bathroom first. Empty. The sink was dry, towel untouched. Then he turned toward her bedroom. Izuku slowed as he stepped inside, lowering himself slightly like he didn't want to startle her. Izuki, he said softly, crouching a bit. It's Deku. I saw the TV on. I'm not mad. A faint creak answered him. His eyes flicked to the closet. Izuku crouched and gently nudged the closet door open. Inside, Izuki sat completely still behind the laundry hamper. Her back was perfectly straight, arms pressed to her sides, legs tucked neatly in front of her. Her head tilted just a fraction, eyes wide but unblinking, cheeks slightly pink. Izuki, he whispered, a bit concerned. No movement. No sound. Her body stayed rigid, almost unnaturally so, like a little statue. Izuku frowned. Sweetheart? Are you okay? Her head tilted slightly to one side, and she whispered in a perfectly calm, almost robotic voice, I am a life-size doll. I am not real. Izuku blinked, utterly confused. Okay, he reached a hand out, gently brushing her shoulder. Right, though well. This was weird to him. This was the first time she had pretended to be a toy in order to get out of trouble. Izuku sat there, tilting his head to look at her perfectly stiff little body. Well, he said softly, a small smile tugging at his lips, you don't want to be a doll forever, you know. Dolls don't get to do anything all day long except sit perfectly still. He lightly tapped her arm. And they don't get to eat sweet things, or run around at the park, or play with their friends. Izuki's body didn't move. Her face stayed forward, expression blank, lips pressed tight together. Deku chuckled quietly. See? That's what dolls do. They just sit. All day. That doesn't sound very fun, does it? Her small shoulders trembled slightly, though she still didn't move. Then, ever so slowly, her tiny hands curled into fists. Her lips quivered. And no, she whispered, voice barely audible. A tiny hiccup escaped her, and her eyes glistened. It doesn't. And then the dam broke. Tears spilled freely, rolling down her cheeks. Her arms wrapped around herself as if trying to keep her tiny body together. Dolls don't get to do anything fun. And she sobbed, voice cracking into soft, broken little hiccups. I don't get to do anything because of Daddy. Izuku's heart sank. He shifted slightly, bringing her closer, letting her lean into him as he rubbed on her back. I know, baby, he murmured. I know it feels like that right now. She buried her face into his shoulder, small body shaking with silent sobs, letting all the frustration and loneliness she'd been holding inside spill out. Deku held her steady, whispering comforting words as her little tears soaked his shirt. Then, from the living room, Katsuki's voice boomed, Izuki. Her whole body froze. Then, without thinking, she shot out both hands and grabbed onto Deku's sleeve, fingers digging in tight. Hide me. Please, 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 she whispered, her voice trembling. Izuku let out a quiet sigh, part exasperated, part fond. Oh, sweetheart. He carefully lifted her from behind the hamper, holding her close as heavy footsteps pounded down the hall. Katsuki appeared in the doorway moments later, hair still damp, towel slung around his neck, eyes already sharp and narrowing. There you are, Katsuki snapped, arms crossing tight over his chest. Watching TV. Again. Izuki whimpered and immediately wrapped herself around Izuku's leg, burying her face into his thigh. I'm sorry, she cried, words dissolving into shaky sounds. You've been told how many times? Katsuki said sharply. You're grounded. That means no TV. Izuku straightened slightly, keeping a calm voice. Kaken. She's 5. And 5 is old enough to understand rules. Katsuki shot back without missing a beat. That's why she cries any time she gets caught. Izuki squeezed Izuku's leg tighter, her small body trembling as sobs racked through her. I just wanted cartoons. Izuku kept his voice calm, even. Kids this young struggle with impulse control. She wasn't trying to be bad. Izuku, Katsuki cut in suddenly, tone firm and final. Step out. I need to talk to my daughter. Izuku hesitated, eyes dropping to Izuki's tear-soaked face. He brushed her hair back gently, thumbs sweeping away a tear. It's okay, he told her softly. Everything's going to be all right. Reluctantly, he headed for the door. As he passed Katsuki, he paused just long enough to murmur under his breath, I thought you said you'd let me help. Katsuki didn't look at him. His jaw tightened, a muscle ticking. I will, he said quietly. But I need to handle this one. You can't make excuses for her or else she'll never learn. Izuku exhaled slowly, conflicted. Katsuki's way of parenting and his way of parenting were very different, but arguing in front of Izuki wasn't an opinion. So he nodded and stepped out. Katsuki reached back with his free hand and slammed the door shut behind him with a resounding thud, the frame rattling slightly from the force. His broad shoulders tensed under his white shirt as he turned, his crimson eyes narrowing on Izuki, who was still standing near the foot of her bed. He took a few steps toward her. Izuki's tiny frame shrank back instinctively, her little feet shuffling in reverse. Her wide red eyes filled with fresh tears as she clasped her hands together in front of her orange pajamas. I'm sorry, Daddy, she whimpered again, her voice small and quivering. I won't watch TV no more without asking. Katsuki stopped a foot away, towering over her, his muscular arms crossing over his chest. He tilted his head slightly, his spiky blonde hair catching the dim light. Do you even understand what an apology means? He asked, his voice low and gruff. Izuki sniffled loudly, wiping her nose with the back of her hand, her cheeks flushed red. It means I say sorry when I do something bad, and then you not mad anymore? And you forgive me, she explained in her high-pitched 5-year-old lisp, her words tumbling out uncertainly as she fidgeted with the hem of her pajama top. Katsuki's jaw clenched visibly. He uncrossed his arms and crouched down, his knees cracking faintly as he rested his calloused hands on them. Wrong. Apologies are only real if you mean them, if you're actually sorry and gonna stop doing the dumb shit that got you in trouble. Otherwise, it's just empty words to get out a punishment. He stood back up with a sharp exhale through his nose. Now stand in the corner. Face the wall. Hands at your sides. Izuki's lower lip trembled harder, but she nodded meekly. Fine, she whispered, turning slowly and padding softly to the corner, her socked feet sinking into the carpet, her small shoulders slumped in defeat. Katsuki moved to her bed and dropped onto the mattress, creaking under his weight. He leaned back against the headboard and pulled his phone from his pocket. The screen glowed as he unlocked it. You're stayin' there for exactly 1 hour, he said without looking up. No sittin', no tinnin' around, no whinin'. Clock starts now. Izuki stood rigid for a moment, then crossed her skinny arms tight over her chest. Her mind sent from scared to angry within seconds. How dare he? It's not my fault. I don't need to be in the corner, he needs to be in the corner. This isn't fair. Izuki stomped her small foot down hard, thump, the impact vibrating faintly through the floorboards as she muttered under her breath, voice barely audible but laced with defiance. You, Daddy? Katsuki's crimson eyes snapped up from his phone screen, narrowing instantly at the sound. What was that? He demanded, his voice cutting sharp and low, like a warning growl rumbling in his chest. Izuki froze mid-motion, her body going rigid as she stared intently at the blank wall, cheeks flushing hot with realization. She'd never cursed before, not once, but Katsuki's habit had rubbed off, slipping out in her frustration. Her shoulders hunched inward, trying to make herself smaller. And nothing. I didn't say nothing. He set his phone down on the nightstand with a clack, the sound echoing in the tense silence. Leaning forward on the bed, his broad shoulders rolled as he sat up straighter, muscles coiling under his shirt. Bullshit. Pushing off the mattress, he rose and strode across the room, his heavy footsteps thudding against the floor. He bent down behind her, his tall frame looming as he leaned in close. Did you just cuss, Izuki? Her head dropped lower, chin tucking tightly to her chest, shoulders shaking as fresh tears spilled faster down her freckled cheeks, dripping onto her clenched fists. She knew she was in for it now, so she panicked. She stomped again, thump, her little body trembling with pent-up rage. Then it burst out. "You do it so I can too. I hate you. You're mean. So I did. Because this isn't fair." Her small fists pounded furiously against her own thighs, knuckles turning white as she hammered down in helpless frustration. "You're ruining everything. Now I'll never have friends. It's all your fault." She stomped twice more, thump, thump, her body curling forward toward the wall as if trying to shrink into nothingness, shoulders drawn up to her ears. Then she whipped around suddenly to face him, tears flinging from her lashes in arcs, lips quivering uncontrollably, face blotchy and red. "You're the worst daddy ever." Katsuki had reached his limit. His hand shot out in a blur, thick fingers clamping firmly around her slender upper arm, the grip unyielding but controlled. "No ma'am," he growled, voice gravelly and deep. He yanked her toward the bed with a swift pull, her feet scraping and stumbling across the floor as her shorter legs scrambled desperately to keep up, body jerking off balance. "You know damn well you're not allowed to talk like that." The tantrum exploded then, full force. "Let go. You're hurting me," she yelled, her small frame twisting wildly in his grasp, free arm flailing as her fingers clawed at his hand, trying to pry his iron-like fingers loose. His calloused digits dug deeper into the soft flesh of her arm as he strained to maintain control without bruising her. She jerked side to side, her body writhing like a coiled spring, nearly slipping free once as his grip shifted. "You don't get to throw words like that around." "But you get to when you're mad," she shrieked, voice cracking high and raw, echoing sharply off the walls. Her legs kicked out in wild arcs, small feet thrashing to shove against his shins, while her fists balled tighter, nails biting into her palms until crescents formed. "Because I'm an adult." Katsuki shot back, his tone booming as he tightened his hold and hauled her closer. "You'll learn to listen, Izuki, or you'll learn the hard way. You ruin everything." Izuki screamed. Her whole body squirmed and contorted like elastic, hips twisting, back arching in desperate attempts to wriggle free from his grasp. "You knew better than to use that kind of language." Katsuki snapped, voice rising to drown hers out. His large hands shifted firmly but carefully, sliding to grip under her arms, lifting her slightly to prevent escape, his palms hot against her sides as her legs dangled and kicked. "I don't care," she shrieked, arching her back dramatically, tiny fingers clawing at empty air. Her small body thrashed against his solid frame, but his hold remained like forged steel, arms locked and unyielding. "I hate you. Hate, hate, hate," she screamed. Katsuki's eyes narrowed to slits, jaw clenching so hard the muscle in his cheek twitched. "I said enough," he roared, the sound booming in the small room. He dropped heavily onto the edge of the bed, the mattress dipping under his weight as he yanked Izuki forward between his spread knees. One thick arm hooked around her waist while the other tried to guide her squirming body down across his left thigh. "You're going to learn there are limits, kid." Izuki shrieked in protest, her small frame bucking wildly against him. "No. No." Her legs kicked out in frantic arcs, heels thudding against him, while her arms flailed like windmills, elbows jabbing at his ribs. She twisted her torso side to side, shoulders rolling, back arching in desperate attempts to keep her feet on the floor. Katsuki grunted with effort, sweat beading along his hairline as he fought to bend her forward. She may have been 5, but demon, she was hard to hold. His left arm tightened across her middle, pulling her closer, while his right hand pressed between her shoulder blades, trying to fold her over his lap. "Quit fightin' me, Izuki, Izuki, stop." She only struggled harder, breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps. Her hips jerked, body wriggling like a fish on a line as she planted her feet against the floor for leverage and shoved backward. Katsuki's grip slipped on her shirt, the thin fabric bunched and stretched under his fingers. With one final, frantic twist, Izuki yanked upward and to the side. The oversized pajama t-shirt she wore, one of Katsuki's old ones that hung loose on her small frame, slid right up her torso and over her head as his hand lost grip. She popped free like a cork, stumbling backward in just her little tank top underneath, arms tangled for a second in the empty shirt before it dropped to the floor. Katsuki lurched forward on the bed, nearly pitching off the edge as his arms closed on nothing but air. "Izuki, damn it," he barked, voice rough with frustration and a hint of disbelief. He stood to his feet, one hand reached for her again. Izuki bolted toward the door, bare feet slapping the floor, chest heaving. Katsuki lunged after her, muttering under his breath, "Tease slippery brat, pullin' out of your shirt like that? You're only makin' this worse." "No. Eno," she shrieked, her body quivering violently, chest heaving with quick, ragged gasps, face flushed crimson. "You can't tell me what to do." Katsuki lunged after her in an instant, his powerful arms sweeping out to scoop her up under both arms, hoisting her clean off the ground. Her legs bicycled wildly in the air, heels drumming hard against his thighs with muffled thuds as she wailed, "Put me down. Keep screamin', it's not gonna change shit. You're getting your butt beat," he said through gritted teeth, forearms bulging with corded muscle as he carried her struggling form back to the bed, her weight nothing against his strength. He dropped heavily onto the mattress and flipped her over his lap in one fluid, swift motion, his left arm pinning her squirming back firmly while his right hand steadied her hips. "Eno," she wailed, legs kicking like pistons in the air, tiny fists pounding relentlessly against his thigh with dull thumps. Then, suddenly, one ear-piercing scream tore through. "Hey! Stop!" From the living room, Izuku bolted upright on the couch, his heart slamming in his chest at the chaos bleeding through the walls, the frantic scuffing of feet, her panicked shrieks rising in pitch. It was abruptly cut off by a sharp, resounding smack. The unmistakable crack of a broad palm connecting firmly with pajama-clad bottom, the sound echoing through the house like a whip. Izuki's cry shattered into loud, hiccuping sobs that bubbled up endlessly, her body jerking with each one. Izuku stood frozen, breath caught in his throat for about 3 seconds. Then he ran after the door. He barely made it 2 steps before the bedroom door swung open. Katsuki stepped out and shut it behind him with a solid click, his broad frame filling the doorway like a wall. Izuku stopped short, chest heaving. His hands were half raised, fingers curled tight like he was ready to grab the door. "What was that?" Izuku demanded, voice tight. His eyes flicked past Katsuki, desperate to see inside. "What just happened?" Katsuki didn't meet his gaze. His shoulders were rigid, neck muscles bunched. "She was disciplined," he said flatly. "For cussing at me." Izuku stared at him. His brows drew together, jaw slowly tightening. "Disciplined? How?" Katsuki turned away instead of answering, long strides carrying him toward the kitchen. His movements were sharp, restless, like energy had nowhere to go. Izuku followed, heart hammering. "Kaken." His voice dropped. "Did you hit her?" Katsuki opened a cabinet too hard. It thunked against the frame. He grabbed another glass, this time getting some wine. Izuku didn't move. "If you hit her." Katsuki sat the bottle down and drank fast, throat working as he swallowed. He set the glass down with a clink and wiped his mouth, still refusing to look at him. That was answer enough. Izuku in a sharp breath and turned on his heel, already heading back down the hall. "Don't," Katsuki barked. Izuku stopped but didn't turn around. His shoulders were tense, fists balled at his sides. "Don't what?" "Don't go in there," Katsuki snapped, stepping closer. "If you coddle her, she won't learn." Izuku turned then, eyes blazing. "It is not okay to hurt her. She was being deliberately disrespectful. She's 5. Izuku shot back, spinning fully to face him. His chest rose and fell fast, hands trembling now. "She's 5, Kaken. She knows right from wrong." Katsuki yelled, fists clenching. "Thought. We warned. Nothing was getting through. Gentle wasn't working. That doesn't give you the right." Izuku didn't finish the sentence for the moment. He was said. "I can't talk to you right now, Kaken." Izuku shoved open Izuki's bedroom door and then shut it behind him, leaving Katsuki alone in the kitchen. The air inside felt heavy, thick with quiet sobbing. Izuki was curled tightly on her side on the bed, knees drawn up, face smashed into her pillow. Her small shoulders shook with each breath. Soft, broken sounds leaked out hh like she was trying not to cry anymore and failing. One hand clutched the sheet. The other hovered over her bottom, fingers curled tight. "Go away," she cried hoarsely without looking. "I don't like you. Go away." Izuku crossed the room in quick, quiet steps. "It's okay," he said softly, already lowering himself beside her. "It's just me, sweetheart." Her crying hitched. Her head turned a fraction, tear-soaked hair sticking to her cheeks. Her eyes were red and swollen, lashes clumped together. "Deku," she whispered. He scooped her up immediately, lifting her carefully against his chest. Her body was tense for half a second, then she collapsed into him, arms flying around his neck as another sob tore loose. He adjusted his grip, one arm strong around her back, the other cradling her head. He pressed her close, anchoring her shaking body against his own steady breathing. "I've got you," he murmured, rocking slightly. "I've got you. It's okay." She cried into his shoulder, small fists twisting in his shirt, breath breaking over and over. "It hurts," she whimpered. I didn't mean it." "I know," Izuku whispered, rubbing slow circles between her shoulder blades. "I know you didn't." Her sobs gradually lost their sharp edge. They softened into wet sniffles, then hiccuping breaths that shuddered through her tiny frame. Izuku kept rocking her, steady and patient, his chin resting lightly against her hair. Eventually, her grip loosened. Her breathing evened out. Izuku shifted carefully, easing back against the pillows with her tucked securely against his chest. One hand stayed warm and solid at her back, the other smoothing her hair as her eyelids fluttered shut. When she finally fell asleep, tear tracks drying on her cheeks, Izuku pressed a gentle kiss to her head and held her there, unmoving. Outside the room, the apartment was silent. Inside, Izuku's jaw tightened. This wasn't over. Late that night, the apartment was quiet enough that Izuku could hear his own footsteps as he crossed the hall. He paused in the bedroom doorway. Katsuki was already in bed, sprawled back against the pillows, one arm bent behind his head while he scrolled on his phone. The light from the screen washed his sharp features in pale blue. He glanced up when Izuku entered just in time to see Izuku grab his pillow from the end of the bed and tuck it under his arm. Izuku turned toward the door. Katsuki's brows slammed together. He pushed himself upright, the mattress creaking as he yanked the blankets back. "Are you seriously about to sleep on the couch over this crap?" he demanded. Izuku stopped and turned around so fast the pillow slipped in his grip. His voice came out loud and raw. "Yes." Katsuki growled under his breath and swung his legs over the side of the bed. He stood in one sharp motion, jaw tight, shoulders squared, and followed Izuku out into the living room. "This is stupid as hell," Katsuki snapped as Izuku tossed the pillow onto the couch. "You're overreacting. Spanking is normal DSPLN." Izuku turned slowly. His hands were shaking. He planted his feet, chest rising as he took a breath that did nothing to calm him. "Pain doesn't teach a child," he said, voice tight but controlled. "It teaches them to fear you." Katsuki scoffed, arms crossing hard over his chest. "Don't start acting like some expert. You've been her step-parent for 6 months. I've been doing this for 5 years. Izuku's eyes flashed. He stepped forward, closing the space between them. "That doesn't mean I don't have common sense." Katsuki opened his mouth. Izuku didn't let him. "If she's not old enough to be reasoned with," Izuku fired, words tumbling out fast now, "then why are you hitting her? And if she is old enough to be reasoned with, why are you hitting her kaken?" The words landed hard. Katsuki froze. His mouth shut. His jaw worked once, then again, like he was grinding down something bitter. His shoulders slowly lost their tension, dropping just a fraction. Izuku exhaled shakily and kept going, softer now but no less firm. "There are other ways. Take the batteries out of the remote. Lock the TV. Redirect her. Anything. There are 1,000 ways to teach a kid without hurting them." Silence stretched between them. The hum of the refrigerator filled the space. I never should have left you alone with her. Izuku mumbled quietly, regret filling him as he looked off to the side. Katsuki stared at the floor. His hands flexed, then clenched, then slowly relaxed at his sides. Seconds passed. Finally he spoke quiet, rough. You're right. Izuku blinked. What? Katsuki swallowed hard. You're right, he said again, voice cracking despite himself. And he stopped, breath hitching, then forced it out. I'm sorry. Izuku stared at him, genuinely stunned. Katsuki turned away abruptly, shoulders hunched now, like the fight had drained out of him all at once. He started toward the hallway without another word. Something twisted in Izuku's chest. Something was wrong. That was far too easy. Kaken, he said quickly, following. He reached out and caught Katsuki by the wrist, stopping him. Hey! Katsuki stiffened but didn't pull away. Izuku stepped closer and gently turned him around, forcing him to look at him. Katsuki's eyes were hard but wet, shining in a way that made Izuku's breath catch. Are you okay? Izuku asked quietly. Katsuki laughed once, sharp and broken. His voice dropped. I'm turning into my mom. The words came out like a confession. Izuku stood there as his mind drifted to all the stories Katsuki had never meant to tell but had anyway. The sharp snaps of DSPN disguised as lessons. The way Katsuki had learned early that mistakes were paid for in pain instead of guidance. How praise was rare from his mother, but punishment came fast and loud. Izuku remembered the offhand comments, the abuse, and so much more as certain memories surfaced. That's how he was taught, Izuku thought quietly. Not because it was right, but because it was all he knew. Izuku didn't hesitate. He stepped in and wrapped his arms around Katsuki, pulling him close. Katsuki stood rigid for half a second, then sagged into the embrace, forehead pressing against Izuku's shoulder, breath shuddering. Izuku held him firmly, one hand sliding up to the back of his neck, grounding. You're not her, he murmured. And even if you mess up sometimes, you can change. You have changed so much. Katsuki exhaled slowly, shoulders rising and falling against Izuku's chest. He didn't speak, but he didn't pull away either. He just stood there, with Izuku. Katsuki pulls Izuku closer, thanking him. The next day, Izuki sat alone at the end of a long lunch table. Her feet didn't quite reach the floor, legs swinging slowly as she poked at her food. A half-eaten sandwich rested on her tray, applesauce untouched. Around her, tables buzzed with noise, kids laughing, trading snacks, calling across the room, but there was a careful bubble of empty space around her seat. Nobody sat with her because of everyone calling her a murderer's baby. She took a small bite anyway, chewing slowly, eyes fixed on the tabletop like it might give her answers. Hey, sunshine. The voice came from just behind her shoulder, low and warm, like it was meant only for her. Izuki froze. Then her head snapped around. Deku! Her face lit up instantly, eyes wide and bright like someone had flipped on a switch. She shot out of her seat and wrapped her arms around him, squeezing tight around his middle. You're here? Izuku laughed softly, bending a little to hug her back. Hi, kiddo. She pulled back just enough to look up at him, grinning so hard it almost hurt. What are you doing here? He slid into the seat beside her, setting his lunch down that he brought. Well, he said gently, I thought, maybe I should go eat lunch with someone really cool today. Her mouth wobbled for half a second, then she smiled again and nodded hard. I wanted to too. That was when the whispers started. Kids at nearby tables began staring. Wait, is that? No way. That's Deku. Chairs scraped loudly as heads turned. A few kids actually stood up just to get a better look. He's real. My brother has his poster. He saved my cousin's dog once. At another table, one girl leaned forward, practically bouncing in her seat. I want to go see Deku. Another girl's eyes lit up. Me too. A third girl frowned, lowering her voice as she glanced across the cafeteria. But he's sitting with Izuki. You know, the murderer's baby. For a split second, no one said anything. Then the second girl scoffed and stood up. You know what, who cares? It's Deku. If he's sitting with her, then I want to go sit with her too. Before Izuki could even process it, a small crowd had started drifting closer, eyes wide, voices overlapping. At another table, her bully was halfway through his lunch when his friend suddenly froze, staring past him. Dude, the kid whispered urgently. No way. No way. The bully frowned. What? That's Deku, his friend hissed. At her table. Hiroshi turned, squinting across the cafeteria. His eyes landed on Izuku's green hair, calm smile, sitting right next to Izuki like he belonged there. Why is Deku eating with her? He muttered. His friend was already standing. I don't know. I'm gonna find out. I want to meet him. He took off before Hiroshi could say anything else. By the time the friend reached Izuki's table, the crowd had grown enough that a teacher finally clapped her hands sharply. All right, everyone back to your seats. Let them eat. Grumbling and disappointed sighs followed, but the kids slowly scattered. After a few minutes, the friend returned to the table, eyes wide like he'd just seen a miracle. Well? Hiroshi demanded. What's he doing here? The kid leaned in, lowering his voice. You're not gonna believe this. What? That's Izuki's stepdad. Hiroshi stared at him. You're lying. I'm not. I asked. He said so. Hiroshi looked back at Izuki again, disbelief written all over his face. At Izuki's table, she leaned closer to Izuku and whispered, Thank you for coming. Izuku smiled at her. Anytime. A moment later, 3 girls from the one table approached hesitantly. Izuki? One of them said, twisting her fingers together. We're really sorry we were mean. We didn't know Mr. Deku was your stepdad, and we shouldn't have believed all those mean things we heard. The other nodded quickly. If you can forgive us, can we sit with you? Izuki looked at them all, thinking. She hated how mean they were to her. She hated how mean they all had been. But she also wanted friends again. She wanted to not be hated. Good thing about being 5, you don't overthink much. And you forgive easily. Izuki shifted slightly to make room, being very forgiving. No problem at all. The girls slid into the seats, immediately chattering. It's so cool that Deku is your stepdad. I would have told everyone if I were you. I'm really sorry we shouldn't have listened to all those meanies. Izuki wiggled in her seat, fingers twisting together as the girls finished apologizing. She looked up at them, eyes still a little shiny, but she nodded. It's okay, she said quietly. Then she lifted her chin, voice small but firm. I forgive you all. The girls' smiles softened immediately. We won't do that again, one of them promised. We're sorry. For real. Izuku watched the exchange with a warm, proud smile. He leaned forward just a little, hands folded loosely on the table. It takes courage to admit when you've hurt someone, he said gently to the girls. And it takes even more courage to forgive. Just remember, words can stick longer than you think. So try to use kind ones. They nodded, a little sheepish but sincere. Izuku turned back to Izuki and rested a hand on her shoulder. I'm really proud of you, he said softly. It's not always easy to forgive. Izuki beamed, chest puffing up just a bit. Lunch ended quicker than Izuku expected. Chairs scraped, kids stood, voices rose as teachers clapped their hands to move things along. I'm gonna throw this away, Izuku said quietly, leaning closer so only Izuki could hear. I'll be right back, okay? She nodded, small fingers curling around the edge of the table as she watched him go, eyes following him like she was afraid he might disappear into the crowd. Izuku weaved through the cafeteria, careful not to bump anyone, until he reached the trash cans. That's when he slowed and noticed a boy standing there already. Hiroshi. The moment Hiroshi noticed him, his whole body reacted, shoulders drawing inward, elbows tucking tight to his sides. Hands clenched around his tray so hard, it was like if he loosened his grip, everything might spill. Izuku hesitated for half a second, then lifted his head and offered a small, nervous smile. Hey, he said softly. Excuse me. Is it okay if I use this one? Hiroshi blinked, clearly caught off guard by the politeness. Yeah, sure. Izuku threw the trash into the bin, the clatter loud in the brief silence between them. Instead of walking away, he lingered, shifting his weight. His hand went to the back of his neck, thumb rubbing against his skin the way it always did. I'm Izuku Midoriya, he added, voice careful but sincere. It's nice to meet you. Hiroshi nodded slowly, eyes flicking past him toward Izuki's table then back again. Yeah, I know. The space between them stretched. Kids laughed somewhere behind them. A teacher called out for students to line up. But neither of them moved. Izuku wanted to go back to his daughter, but there was this look on the kid's face. A look that said, I need to talk. Then Hiroshi spoke, barely above a whisper. Excuse me for asking, but you're really Izuki's stepdad? Izuku's shoulders relaxed just a little. He smiled again, softer this time. I am, he said. And what an honor it is. Hiroshi swallowed, throat bobbing. See, can I ask you something? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Izuku shook his head immediately, almost too fast. It's okay. Really. You can ask. The boy's fingers twisted together at the edge of the tray, fabric bunching between them. Did dynamite really kill a baby? During the war? Izuku didn't flinch. His expression didn't harden. It softened. That's a very good question to ask, but there's no need to worry, he said gently, firmly. There was a bad guy, but they only looked like a baby on the outside. Inside, they were actually really dangerous. No real kids got hurt, not even one. I promise. Heroes are there to protect people, and if there had been any question at all, Kaken would never have touched them. Izuku recalls all the times Katsuki was very terrifying towards children, and how he had to be restrained a lot, but he left that part out. Hiroshi's face crumpled like the words finally knocked something loose. She was right? Izuki was right? She was right. And I've been bullying her, acting like a villain, acting like a bad guy. All because I thought it was a lie. Deku should throw me in jail with the other bad guys. Because I deserve it. What is wrong with me? Izuku stood there waiting for more questions, but they never came. He just started to see tears. Oh, hey, is everything oh-dash? I have a confession. The kid yelled out. Izuku was a bit startled by the kid's sudden outburst, but he was all ears. Okay. I said really mean things to her. He choked, breath hitching. Because of that. I thought it was true. For a long time. His hands clenched tighter around the tray, tears spilling over now, dripping onto the plastic. I bullied her, 'cause of me. I was acting like a villain. I didn't mean I didn't know. I'm sorry for all of it. Izuku watched him for just a moment, then reached out slowly, carefully, resting a hand on the boy's shoulder. Not gripping. Just there. Hey, it's okay. It takes a lot to admit that, Izuku said quietly. Fear can make people say and do things they don't really mean. I know that better than most. Hiroshi sniffed hard, wiping his face with his sleeve. You do. Izuku's smile turned small and a little sad. Yeah. I had a friend once who was really scared too. Of a few things. He hurt people because of it. He hurt me. He paused, then added softly, but he learned. He chose to change. And he's not a bad person. He's actually closer to me now than I ever thought he'd be. Just because you mess up or make mistakes doesn't mean you're a villain. So don't call yourself that, okay? Hiroshi stared at him. You think I can change too? I do, Izuku said without hesitation. Especially since you feel bad about it. That matters. The boy nodded, breathing uneven but slower now. Okay, I'll tell her I'm sorry, he said quietly. For real this time. I'll make it right. Izuku straightened and glanced across the cafeteria. Izuki was still sitting at the table, small shoulders tense, eyes locked on him like she was waiting for a signal. He then turned his focus back to the boy. Thank you, Izuku said softly. That'll mean a lot to her. Just remember, no matter what, you can always turn things around for the better. Hiroshi nodded once quick and decisive, thank you Mr. Deku, then hurried away, tray forgotten as he disappeared into the crowd. Izuku stood there for a moment longer, heart heavy, but hopeful. Then he turned back toward Izuki, ready to go back to her. After school, the hallway buzzed with end-of-day noise, lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking, kids shouting over one another as backpacks were shrugged on. Izuki walked carefully down the hall, small steps measured, shoulders slightly hunched under the weight of her backpack. The straps tugged against her arms as it bounced softly with every step. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor tiles, counting the cracks between them. Lockers slammed. Kids laughed. Shoes squeaked. She almost didn't see it until it was too late. A book suddenly skidded across the tile in front of her, spinning once before stopping right in her path. Ah! Her foot caught the edge. Her body pitched forward. For a split second she windmilled, arms jerking out instinctively, then gravity won. Her palms slapped the floor first, stinging sharply. Her knees followed with a hard crack that rattled up her legs. The impact punched the air straight out of her lungs, leaving her with a sharp, helpless oof as her chest collapsed inward. Her backpack slid sideways, one strap digging into her shoulder as she lay there stunned, blinking at the blurry floor. Laughter burst above her, loud and ugly. "Watch where you're going, murderers, baby," a boy snorted. Izuki's throat tightened. Her eyes burned as she essayed in a shaky breath that didn't quite feel big enough. Her lip trembled despite her trying to press it still. She pushed up onto her hands, palms shaking against the cold tile, elbows wobbling as she tried to get her knees under her. Before she could even attempt to stand, footsteps rushed toward her. "Oh my God, Izuki! Are you okay?" It was a shocking moment. Two girls dropped down beside her immediately. One knelt close, hands hovering before gently gripping Izuki's arm, careful not to hurt her. The other tugged her backpack straight so it wasn't pulling her shoulder anymore. "That was messed up," one snapped, whipping her head toward the boy. "You did that on purpose," the other added, eyes sharp. "What's wrong with you?" Izuki winced as they helped her to her feet. Her knees throbbed, heat pulsing under her skin. She brushed at them with shaky fingers, trying to wipe away dust and the sting at the same time. Her chest still felt tight, breaths coming short and uneven. "I am okay," she mumbled, even though she wasn't. Her voice came out small. "Thank you." The boy laughed again, louder this time. "You guys are protecting her? How sad," he mocked, leaning back slightly, hands loose at his sides. "What, you scared she'll get her daddy on you if you aren't nice to her?" Izuki's shoulders curled in on themselves. A firm hand landed on the boy's shoulder. "Hey!" The voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut. The boy turned, the smirk still half on his face. Hiroshi stood there. His feet were planted wide, like he wasn't going anywhere. His shoulders were squared, back straight, chest lifting slow and heavy with controlled breaths. His jaw was clenched so tight the muscles jumped, teeth grinding behind his lips. His hands were curled into fists at his sides, knuckles white, arms rigid. Izuki's eyes widened. The boy scoffed, but it came out thin. "Nervous? What do you want?" Hiroshi didn't answer. He stepped forward, then he swung. The punch landed square in the boy's face with a sickening thud. The sound echoed off the lockers. The boy's head snapped sideways, his body folding instantly, legs buckling as he collapsed in a boneless heap against the floor, completely still. The hallway went dead silent. Izuki stared, her mouth slightly open, heart slamming so hard she could feel it in her throat. Hiroshi stood there, fists still clenched, arm trembling faintly now that the adrenaline had nowhere to go. His breathing was loud, uneven. His eyes flicked up and locked with Izuki's. For just a second, neither of them moved. Then heavy footsteps thundered closer. "What is going on here?" A teacher shoved through the gathered kids, then her eyes widened as she saw the unconscious boy. "Someone call the nurse now." Another teacher popped up behind Hiroshi and grabbed Hiroshi by the arm, fingers tight. "Office. Right now." Hiroshi didn't resist. As he was pulled down the hall, his head turned once more, eyes finding Izuki again. She stood frozen between her friend's knees scraped, hands clenched at her sides, chest still fluttering from the fall and everything that followed, watching him disappear, not sure whether the feeling twisting in her stomach was shock. or something dangerously close to gratitude. After school, Katsuki's car was parked out front, engine running, hands gripping the wheel as he waited for Izuki. His eyes scanned the front steps, the benches, even the far edge of the lot. But she wasn't there. She wasn't waving or running toward him like she usually did. Where the hell is that kid? Frowning, he started to get out of the car, looking around again, wondering where she could possibly be. Inside, Izuki was weaving through the school hallways, small steps quick and nervous, backpack bouncing against her back. Her eyes darted left and right, scanning the crowd for someone. Finally, she rounded a corner and found him. Hiroshi was there, sitting stiffly on the bench outside the principal's office, legs dangling slightly as if he didn't know how to rest them properly. His hands were curled into loose fists on his knees, shoulders hunched. Izuki hesitated, then walked up, small feet barely making a sound on the floor. "Hey," she began softly. Hiroshi looked up at her. Not much of an expression. "What?" "I just wanted to know, why did you hit that boy for me?" she asked, tilting her head, her voice small but curious. Hiroshi glanced down, kicking lightly at the ground. "I just wanted to," he muttered, voice low. His fingers fidgeted with the edge of his sleeve. Izuki blinked, staring at him with wide eyes, hands gripping her backpack straps. "So, you like me now?" she asked, almost whispering. Hiroshi's head dropped further, chin nearly to his chest, face hidden from her view. I just wanted to make things right," he mumbled, almost to himself. Izuki furrowed her brows. "Make what right?" she pressed, stepping a little closer, her tiny arms crossed, chin tilted up. "Like what? You want to keep me safe from bad people? Like a hero?" Hiroshi's face flushed red. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the bench. Then he threw up his hands, half exasperated, half panicked. "Stop it. This is so embarrassing. I'm sorry, all right? There, I said it. You were right about everything. I know that now. I don't hate you anymore. Go ahead, tease me for it." Izuki's mouth dropped open slightly, but she didn't tease. Instead, her shoulders relaxed a bit, and a small smile tugged at her lips. It seems my stepdad visiting helped a lot," she said softly. "I wish everyone liked my real daddy the same way." Hiroshi shifted slightly, glancing at her, one shoulder curling forward. Don't pay any mind to them," he said quietly, voice serious. "I'll help you figure out who told everyone about him." Izuki's eyes widened in excitement, and she bounced slightly on her heels. "You want to help me?" she asked eagerly. Hiroshi gave a small, embarrassed shrug. "Yeah, but don't make it all weird," he muttered, trying to tuck his hands into his lap. Izuki didn't care about weird. She lunged forward, throwing her arms around him, hugging him tight. "Thank you. Thank you so much," she squealed, pressing her face into his shoulder. Hiroshi stiffened for a heartbeat, then started yelling. "Who said you could hug me?" That's when Katsuki stepped into the school doorway, still looking for Izuki, eyes narrowing the moment he saw them. His jaw tightened as his gaze locked on Izuki wrapped around the boy. "Echoi," he barked, voice echoing off the hallway walls. "Izuki! Come on. We gotta go now." Izuki released Hiroshi, blinking rapidly, still smiling. "Bye, Hiroshi," she called over her shoulder, waving. Hiroshi's small grin lingered as he watched her go. Even if he'd never admit it, he did like that hug. Then his eyes lifted and locked on Katsuki, standing there, glare sharp as knives. The smile faded, replaced by a small, uneasy gulp. Katsuki didn't say a word. He just turned and started marching toward the car, Izuki following. Obediently, her small backpack bouncing as she hurried to keep up. Hiroshi sat back on the bench, shoulders slumping slightly, letting out a breath. Yeah, it's still terrifying. Once in the car, silence stretched like a heavy blanket. Izuki sat in her car seat, knees pulled up slightly, fingers fiddling with the edge of her jacket. Her eyes kept flicking to Katsuki's profile in the rearview mirror, remembering last night. That was the first time he had put a hand on her in anger. But in her own defense, it was also the first time she had muttered a cuss word at him. Katsuki's hands gripped the steering wheel lightly, shoulders tense. He caught the anxious way Izuki's small hands twitched in her lap in the mirror. He recalled Deku's words from last night. Hurting them doesn't teach, it just makes them afraid. He sighed, staying silent for a moment before asking, "Did you make up with that boy?" Izuki nodded, her small head bobbing. "Yes," she said simply, turning her gaze to the passing scenery. "Nice now." Katsuki's jaw flexed slightly. She was sweet, trusting, and stupidly brave at times, but damn, she was acting cautiously, almost like she expected punishment again. His own fault. He pushed the thought away and drove in silence for a few minutes until the car slowed in front of a small neighborhood store. Izuki's eyebrows rose in curiosity as she peered out the window. "Are we grocery shopping?" she asked softly, her voice tentative. "Nope," Katsuki replied, pulling the car to a stop. "Just stopping for one thing." He got out of the car, then unbuckled her, letting her step carefully onto the pavement. He grabbed her small hand in his large one, feeling her tiny fingers against his. She shivered slightly, the afternoon air brushing against her cheeks. Inside, Katsuki walked with long, purposeful strides, Izuki trying to keep up with tiny, hurried steps. He grabbed a simple loaf of bread and headed toward the checkout. Izuki's eyes, however, were already fixed on a huge, brightly colored lollipop displayed on a nearby stand at the register. She chewed her lip, glancing up at Katsuki, but didn't dare say anything. Thankfully, he caught the look. "You want something?" he asked gently, lowering his voice as he crouched slightly to meet her eyes. "No," she mumbled, shaking her head, shoulders hunching. "Kid, it's okay if you want something," Katsuki said, voice soft, one hand squeezing hers. Izuki's gaze darted back to the lollipop. Her little fingers twitched. "Orange one?" he asked, tilting his head with a small smile. She nodded vigorously, eyes lighting up. "Yes." At the checkout, he handed the cashier the bills and picked up the lollipop, handing it to her. Izuki's fingers wrapped eagerly around the stick, and she beamed up at him. "Thank you, Dad." "You're welcome," Katsuki said, smiling, letting her enjoy the candy as they walked back to the car. She liked the lollipop, eyes bright, shoulders relaxed, her earlier tension easing. As they drove past their home, Izuki leaned against the window, squinting. "Where are we going?" she asked, curiosity bubbling in her voice. Katsuki didn't answer until the car stopped again. Outside, the pond was dotted with ducks and geese, their feathers glinting in the sunlight. Izuki's small body tensed and then practically vibrated with excitement. "The pond!" Katsuki unbuckled her again, swung the car door open, and let her out while handing her some bread. She snatched at the soft slices, tears of glee sparkling in her eyes. "Come on. Come get it," she called, tossing pieces into the air as ducks and geese shuffled and ran toward her. Katsuki followed, a smirk tugging at his lips, enjoying her energy. As he watched her, an old lady seated on a nearby bench, clutching a bag of proper feed, looked horrified. "Hey, don't give them bread. It's bad for them." Katsuki's jaw tightened. He growled under his breath but kept moving toward Izuki, ignoring her protests. She squealed as she threw another slice of bread, and the ducks and geese flapped and scrambled, quacking and honking. "Didn't you hear me?" the old lady yelled, wagging her finger. "Shut the hell up and mind your own business." Katsuki barked back, voice rising. "I'm bonding with my kid." He walked forward, eyes fixed on Izuki and the chaotic flock. The lady gaped. "You're rude. You should be banned from the park." Katsuki whipped his head toward her. "You should be banned from ever leaving the house, and probably breathing." The old lady gasped at him, not believing the words coming out of his mouth. "Well," was all she said. He spun back toward his daughter and flinched. She was gone. Then a high-pitched scream pierced the air. "They're gonna eat me! They're gonna eat me!" Katsuki turned toward the voice and saw her being chased. "Hey!" Moving fast, he sprinted until he saw her zigzagging in front of a group of honking geese, bread still in her tiny hands. He scooped her up in one smooth motion, her legs kicking wildly, arms flailing, her yelling mixing with cries. "Next time, stay close, got it?" he said, holding her against his chest as her heartbeat gradually slowed. Then, waving the loaf of bread, he yelled at the approaching ducks and geese. Back! Get back! He smacked one on the head with the loaf, and it honked indignantly. Honk! The old lady shrieked. That's animal cruelty. I'm reporting you. Katsuki ignored the lady and focused on getting all the geese away from him. Katsuki crouched down, trying to shoo a particularly bold goose away that was pecking at his leg. Just as he leaned over, one of the geese snapped its beak and bit him on the butt. What the hell, bastards? Katsuki yelped, jumping forward. Izuki squealed, clutching her stomach and laughing so hard she nearly peed herself. Ha ha ha. Katsuki spun around, face set off, pointing at the geese. You little feathered freaks. Get away from me. The goose hissed, neck stretching forward aggressively, flapping its wings like it was mocking him. Katsuki growled low, shoulders rigid, fists clenched. Damn it. That's it. He grabbed the loaf of bread and heaved it with all his strength across the pond. The bird squealed and took off, diving after it. You'll get it, you stupid birds, he yelled. Useless, waddling idiots. Izuki clapped her hands, eyes sparkling. That was so funny. I want to see more. Katsuki turned with her, voice low and growling. No. We're leaving. Now. He started marching toward the exit, his steps long and decisive. Izuki bounced in his grip, still giggling while the geese flapped behind them. The old lady snorted from her bench, a high, sharp laugh that cut through the evening air as Katsuki stormed out of the park. Back at home, Izuku was moving around the kitchen, wiping down counters, when the door swung open. Katsuki stepped inside, feathers clinging to his hair and jacket, trailing down onto the floor like some ridiculous snowstorm. His shoulders were tense and each step kicked up tiny tufts of white fluff. Izuku's eyebrows shot up. What happened? He asked, voice tight as he tried to suppress a laugh. Izuki, skipping ahead with her lollipop clutched like a scepter, let out a triumphant giggle. Daddy got kissed on the butt by a bird, she squealed, spinning around once before plopping onto the couch. Izuku's shoulders shook slightly as he covered his mouth, struggling to hold in a full laugh. He could see the furious set of Katsuki's jaw, the flare of nostrils, and the twitch of his eyes as he stomped in, kicking his shoes off so hard a feather flew up and hit the ceiling. I'm never taking her to feed geese or ducks again. Katsuki growled, stomping toward the kitchen. Every step scattered feathers across the floor, his arms flailing slightly as he tried to shake them off. Izuku leaned against the counter, biting the inside of his cheek, voice low and teasing. Maybe you should go outside and brush off first? Just cleaned. His fingers drummed nervously on the counter, his voice pitching and dragging. Struggling to try and not laugh. Katsuki swung open the fridge, snatched a soda, and barked, "Shut up." He popped the tab, taking a long sip, feathers dropping with every motion. Izuku shook his head, chuckling softly under his breath as he returned to the counter to finish making Izuki her after-school snack. Why'd you take her to the pond, anyway? He asked, carefully spreading peanut butter on crackers while keeping one eye on Katsuki. I was trying to cheer the kid up, Katsuki muttered, brushing off his jacket with one hand while cradling his soda in the other. Izuku glanced toward the living room. There was Izuki hopping across the couch like a tiny goose herself, arms outstretched, face scrunched in concentration. Honk, 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 she squealed, flapping her arms, landing in a little crouch before springing off again. Izuku smiled softly, shaking his head. Well, it looks like it worked. He glanced back at Katsuki. I ate lunch with her earlier, too, trying to cheer her up. Finishing the crackers, Izuku called, Izuki! Snack time! He carried the peanut butter toward the pantry, chuckling quietly under his breath. Still desperately trying to keep it in. I can see you struggling, damn it. Stop laughing. Katsuki's voice boomed suddenly. He spun around, soda in one hand, feathers sticking out everywhere. Getting bit on the butt wasn't part of the plan. Unable to contain it, Izuku let it all out. Peep ha dash. Izuku grinned sheepishly. It's karma, you know. Ha ha dash. Katsuki's growl rumbled low in his chest. He swung a hand and smacked the peanut butter out of Izuku's fingers, sending it hitting the floor. I said stop it. Izuku's shoulders stiffened, arms crossed defensively. Hey, you know I'm right, Kaken, he continued, laughing till it hurt even as he stooped to pick up the jar. Katsuki's glare could have burned through steel, but Izuku couldn't help it. As the days passed, Izuki's punishment finally ended, and for the first time in a while, she was allowed to have a friend over. Her legs bounced with excitement as she stood near the door, ears practically perked up at the faint knock. Izuku opened the door, his posture relaxed but eyes alert, and greeted Hiroshi with a small, welcoming smile. Hey, come on in. Thanks, Hiroshi muttered quietly, stepping over the threshold, his shoulders tense, fingers gripping the straps of his backpack. The moment Izuki saw him, she bolted forward, her tiny feet pounding against the floor. She threw herself at him in a hug, squeezing tightly, her cheeks pressed against his shoulder. You're here, she squealed, pulling back just enough to grab his arm. Hiroshi blinked, startled, and then let a small, nervous smile escape, his body stiff but gradually loosening as he followed her lead. Come on. I want to show you everything. Izuki exclaimed, tugging him toward her room. She flung open the door and practically bounced inside, spinning in a circle. This is my bed. I sleep here, see? And over here is my shelf with all my dolls and my art stuff. And that's my window where I can see outside. She jumped onto the bed, bouncing slightly, then ran to her small desk, pointing at the crayons, pencils, and stacks of paper. Hiroshi crouched a little to look closer, nodding along, hands fidgeting with his backpack strap as he tried to keep up with her whirlwind energy. Now the rest of the house. Izuki grabbed his hand, yanking him out into the hallway. She led him from room to room, dragging him to the living room, to the small dining area, until they finally reached her parents' bedroom. Hiroshi froze, 1 foot mid-step. Are you sure we're allowed in here? His eyes darted toward the closed door. Izuki shrugged, one hand on her hip, the other still holding his. I'm allowed when I have bad dreams. And Daddy gets mad for having to wake him, but maybe we shouldn't without a yes from Dad or Deku, she admitted, tugging him gently back down the hall. That's when Katsuki emerged from the bathroom. He stopped in the hallway, holding his phone, eyes narrowing. Izuki skidded to a halt mid-step, looking up at him with wide eyes. Daddy, I have a boy over, she announced, bouncing slightly on the ball of her feet. Hiroshi stiffened immediately, shoulders tightening, chest rising unevenly as he recalled their last tense encounter. Anxiety rippled through him, and he swallowed hard, trying not to make any sudden movements. Whatever. Just remember, stay inside. Don't mess anything up, Katsuki told them, voice low as he shot a glare that pinned the boy in place. Izuki, sensing the tension, tugged Hiroshi gently toward the living room. Come on, she whispered, practically dragging him along, her small body moving in quick, excited steps. Katsuki's glare followed them for a moment before he turned and started toward his room in the opposite direction. Once out of earshot, Hiroshi pulled his arm free from Izuki's grasp, backing away slightly, fingers twitching nervously. Thought you said? Your dad wouldn't be here today, he muttered, eyes flicking toward the hall. Izuki's shoulders slumped a little, and she shook her head. He wasn't supposed to be, but something came up at work, so he's off today. From the kitchen, Izuku had overheard, and his chest tightened slightly. He could see Hiroshi still tense, wary, a clear residue of fear lingering in his posture, hands clenched slightly at his sides. I don't really feel comfortable with him here, Hiroshi admitted, stepping a little closer to Izuki but keeping space between himself and her. Izuki's face softened, eyes wide with concern, small hands reaching out as if to reassure him. It's okay, really. There's nothing to be scared of. Well, sometimes, she said, remembering that painful day. Hiroshi exhaled slowly, shoulders dropping just slightly, though his eyes still darted toward the kitchen. I know, but your dad is still scary. Izuki's small frame sagged, lips quivering as she asked, voice soft. Do you want to leave? Before he could answer, Izuku appeared behind them, hands in front of him in a calming gesture, knees bent slightly to make himself approachable. Hey, he said gently, voice low and soothing. How about this, we put on a movie I rented? All Might's in it. Izuki's eyes lit up, bouncing on the ball of her feet. Really? All Might? She practically skipped toward him. Hiroshi, however, stayed back, fiddling nervously with the hem of his shirt as he watched Izuki's excitement. Here, Izuki, would you put the movie in for us? Izuku asked, crouching slightly to her level. Okay. She snatched the DVD from him, spinning on her heel and racing toward the TV. Izuku turned back to Hiroshi, resting a reassuring hand on the small of his back. It's okay. Kaken is safe. Nothing's going to happen. You're fine here. Hiroshi exhaled, shoulders relaxing fractionally, a small nod acknowledging the reassurance. I'm sorry, he murmured, voice barely above a whisper. Izuku smiled softly. It's all right. Why don't you go enjoy the movie with her? The boy nodded, moving toward the couch, hands still slightly twitching but his body visibly easing as he sat down. Izuku watched him settle in, then turned and slipped down the hall toward the bedroom while the muffled sounds of heroic theme music and excited whispers drifted from the living room. Katsuki was in the bedroom, folding laundry with sharp, efficient movements. A shirt snapped once before being squared up, shoulders still tense even in something as ordinary as this. Kaken, Izuku said gently, leaning against the doorframe. I think you need to talk to Hiroshi. Katsuki didn't look up. He folded another shirt, slid it into a drawer. As long as he's not messin' with my kid, there's not much to say. I get that, Izuku said, stepping farther in. But he's still really jumpy. And Izuki, she really wants him to have a good time. He hesitated. Do you think you could help him loosen up a little? Katsuki shoved a pair of socks into the drawer harder than necessary. Finally, he glanced up. I already tried cheering our kid up. Remember how that went? Izuku smiled despite himself. And yet she came home smiling, he said softly. So, I'd call that a success. Katsuki exhaled through his nose, long and tired. I'm not good with other people's kids, he muttered. Hell, I'm barely good with my own. Izuku stepped closer. You're good with Izuki, he said. But hey, I've got an idea that might help. They'd probably like that game you play with her. The one you always do. Katsuki stilled, thinking. Catch the villain, he said quietly. It had been a while. Why don't you try playing that with them? See if it'll get the boy to loosen up a little and maybe have a good time? Izuku says. Back in the living room, the movie continued to play, colorful light flickering across the walls. Izuki was kneeling on the couch, bouncing slightly with restless energy, her hands planted into the cushions as she leaned forward. Beside her, Hiroshi sat stiff and upright, knees pressed together, hands folded tightly in his lap as if afraid to touch anything. His shoulders were hunched, chin tucked down, eyes glued to the screen without really seeing it. A shadow rose slowly behind the couch. Katsuki emerged inch by inch, slow and silent. Black hoodie pulled up, black sweats loose around his legs, gloves stretched tight over his hands. Even his socks were black. A mask covered the lower half of his face, and his hero mask slid down over his eyes, hiding everything but the sharp tilt of his head. He leaned forward until his mouth was just behind Izuki's ear. I heard someone was bad today. Hiroshi said in a sharp breath, his whole body jerking. His shoulders jumped up near his ears, hands flying apart as his back pressed hard into the couch. Izuki spun around so fast her knees slipped on the cushions and then she burst into laughter, face lighting up. Catch the villain. She grabbed a pillow, fingers digging into the fabric as she hauled it up over her head. Bomb! She shrieked, twisting her torso as she threw it with everything she had. Katsuki let it hit him square in the chest. He staggered backward dramatically, arms flailing once before he dropped to one knee, one hand slapping the floor. Gah! Izuki lunged forward and grabbed Hiroshi's hand, her fingers warm and firm around his cold, shaking ones. Run. Don't let him find you. If he does, fight him with your quirk. Go! She yanked once and then tore off down the hall, feet pounding, laughter echoing. Hey wait! Hiroshi cried, stumbling half to his feet, but she was already gone, her voice fading. Katsuki rose slowly. He rolled his shoulders one at a time, the fabric of his hoodie shifting as he straightened to full height. His head tilted, mask glinting, eyes locking onto Hiroshi. Hiroshi froze. His feet felt glued to the floor. His fingers curled inward uselessly, hands trembling at his sides. His chest stuttered as he tried to breathe, breaths coming too fast, too shallow. His eyes burned, glassy and wide. I don't wanna, he stammered, voice cracking. Backing out already? Katsuki said, his voice dropping lower, rougher. What are you, a coward? The word hit like a slap. Hiroshi flinched violently, shoulders caving inward as if he'd been struck. His head ducked, and a small, broken sound slipped out of his throat. Katsuki paused. Then he scoffed, waving a hand dismissively. Figures. Villains always fold when they meet the dark shadow hero. Tibet snatched up a pillow and hurled it. It slammed into Hiroshi's chest. Etigi. The force knocked him backward, feet tangling as he fell with a startled yelp, landing hard on his backside. I'm gonna get you! Katsuki yelled. Hiroshi screamed. He scrambled up, limbs clumsy and panicked, and bolted down the hall. He reached the first door he saw and yanked it open. A closet. He dove inside, shoving boxes aside with frantic strength, shoes clattering to the floor. He crawled over a heap of coats, knees scraping, fingers fumbling as he squeezed deeper in. He wedged himself into the far corner behind a vacuum cleaner, knees pulled tight to his chest, arms wrapped around them. His breathing went wild, sharp gasps ripping in and out of his lungs. His chest burned. Tears streamed down his face. He slapped a hand over his mouth when a sob forced its way up. Stop crying. Please stop. His body rocked slightly, back and forth, unable to stay still, trembling from head to toe. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Katsuki's raspy voice floated closer. Singing a tune. Musical note. Black shadow creeps, black shadow prowls. Catchin' villains, hear him howl. Musical note. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed in, thick and terrifying. The closet door yanked open. Light flooded in. Hiroshi shrank instantly, curling tighter, eyes squeezed shut, every muscle locking as he held his breath. Katsuki scanned the closet. He knew Hiroshi was in there, but this was just a silly little game. So he let the boy think that he didn't see him. Huh, Katsuki muttered. Guess nobody's here. The footsteps moved away, but the door stayed open. Hiroshi se in a desperate gasp, lungs aching. His chest heaved as he whispered shakily, I'm okay. I'm okay. He only got a moment before he heard it. Izuki screamed. Don't hurt me. Pop pop crackle. Her quirk. Hiroshi's body reacted before his mind did. He lunged forward, grabbed a broom, shoved junk aside, and ran. Some of the items in the closet falling over and making a loud noise. He burst into the guest room, which is where the yelling was coming from. Katsuki had Izuki upside down, one arm locked securely around her waist. Her hair hung toward the floor, legs kicking, laughter spilling out as sparks popped at her palms. I caught your partner, Katsuki said, his grip firm. His head snapped toward Hiroshi. Now what are you gonna do? Hiroshi's knees nearly buckled, wobbling beneath him, and he had to widen his stance just to stay upright. The broom trembled in his hands, knuckles bleaching white as he clutched it. A tear spilled free, sliding down his cheek and dripping from the point of his chin. Please, he sobbed, shoulders curling inward, chin trembling. His grip tightened even more as if the broom might anchor him in place. Put her down, sir. Can't, Katsuki replied coolly, adjusting his hold on Izuki as she wriggled. Villains gotta be locked up. Use your quirk. Izuki shouted, laughing breathlessly as she kicked her legs. Sparks popped excitedly at her palms. Free me. Katsuki took a slow step forward. Hiroshi reacted instantly, heels scraping as he stumbled back, spine knocking into the wall. his shoulders pressed flat against it, chest rising and falling too fast. "Come on, hero," Katsuki said, closing the distance. "Save her." I can't," Hiroshi whispered. His voice fractured completely, the words barely making it past his throat. "Then she goes to jail," Katsuki said. "And I come for you next." He tossed Izuki toward the bed. She landed with a soft whump, bouncing once, twice, hair flying as she burst into laughter. "I'm in jail." "Fight." Hiroshi's gaze snapped to her. She was smiling, laughing, trusting him completely. Then his eyes lifted back to Katsuki. The room felt like it was closing in walls too close, air too thick. His fingers cramped around the broom, arms shaking so hard they ached. When he looked at Izuki, it felt like just a game, but when he looked back at Katsuki, it felt like a life or death situation. "If I want to look brave," he whispered, breath hitching as he forced the words out. "I gotta act brave." He then took a breath and screamed a raw, panicked sound and hurled the broom. Katsuki caught it midair with one hand. Fingers snapped shut around the handle effortlessly. The broom didn't even wobble. Hiroshi flinched hard, shoulders jerking up around his ears. "Well," he sniffed weakly. "That didn't work." "You're next," Katsuki growled. Hiroshi bolted. They ran through the house, Hiroshi zigzagging wildly, bare socks esque, slipping against the hardwood as he barely kept his footing. His breath came out in sharp, panicked bursts, chest heaving as he snatched pillows off the couch and flung them blindly over his shoulder with frantic little grunts. And the pillows bounced uselessly off walls and door frames, hoping that one of them possibly hit Katsuki. Behind him, Katsuki charged forward, footsteps thud 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 shaking the floor. His laughter cut through the space, loud and sharp, almost barking as he shouted after him. "Come on, run faster." Hiroshi's foot caught on the edge of the rug. "Ah!" He stumbled, arms windmilling, and stumbled backward into the corner with a hollow thump. The impact knocked the breath straight out of him. "Ha!" He slid down the wall, knees folding up to his chest, spine pressed tight to the corner. His arms flew up over his head on pure instinct, elbows tucked in, fingers clenched in his hair as his whole body curled inward. "No," he cried, voice cracking as it pitched high and thin. "Come on, kid," Katsuki barked, looming closer. "Fight." I can't." Hiroshi sobbed, the words tumbling over each other. His shoulders shook violently as he tried to seek in air and failed. "I can't. I see." Izuku stepped into the living room, empty laundry basket balanced on his hip, a gentle smile on his face. But once he glanced over to Hiroshi, that smile faded fast. Hiroshi was crumpled in the corner, knees jammed tight to his chest, forearms crossed over his head like a shield. His entire body trembled, teeth chattering softly as he rocked in place. A choked sob ripped out of him. Something in Izuku's chest dropped. "Katsuki's taking it too far." "Kaken!" Izuku shouted, voice sharp and cutting. Katsuki paused, then snapped his head around. "Huh? I'm doing what you—" The basket slipped from Izuku's fingers. "I know, but he's freaking out." Body language Kaken. He crossed the room in 2 long strides and dropped to his knees, wrapping Hiroshi up immediately. He pulled the boy against his chest, one arm firm and steady around his back, the other hand cupping the back of his head. Hiroshi made a small, broken noise as he was gathered up, fists clutching desperately into Izuku's shirt. "NNH. It's okay," Izuku murmured, voice low and urgent as he rocked him gently. His palm patted his back. "It's just a game. It's okay. You're safe. You're safe." Hiroshi's breathing stuttered against Izuku's chest, still panicked, but slowly catching. Katsuki tore the mask and visor off his face with a sharp motion and flung them onto the couch. "This is why I didn't want to do this. I told you I'm shit with kids." Izuki came running, feet slapping fast against the floor before she skidded to a stop. "Is Hiroshi okay?" "He's okay," Izuku said softly without looking up. He eased Hiroshi back down, staying crouched so he wasn't towering over him. His hand stayed steady on the boy's back. "Kaken tissues." Izuki tilted her head, eyebrows knitting together. Why didn't you just use your quirk? Hiroshi's shoulders hitched hard. Because dash. His breath caught completely as B paused a good long bit. Izuki looking at him very concerned. I don't. His voice cracked in half. I don't have one. The words tore out of him as he collapsed forward again, hands clawing at his shirt as sobs broke loose. The room went completely silent. After a bit, Hitoshi's crying started tapering off into small, wet hiccups as Izuku kept a steady hand between his shoulders. Izuki sniffed and stepped closer, toes curling into the carpet. She tilted her head, studying him with wide, earnest eyes. Why you're quirkless? She asked softly. Then her face brightened a little, like a puzzle piece clicked into place. Just like Deku was once. Hiroshi flinched at first, then nodded. His fingers twisted in the hem of his shirt, knuckles rubbing together over and over. His voice came out thin and wobbly, like he was trying to make big feelings small enough to fit through his mouth. Why, and that's another reason, he said. I was meek. 'Cause I'm scared. Of people with quirks. Big ones. Loud ones. Scary ones. Dangerous ones. He swallowed hard. I don't have a real way to fight back. So I thought, if I was scary in my own way, then nobody would mess with me. He peeked up, eyes glossy, then dropped his gaze again. And you were a target, 'cause your dad is dynamite, he rushed on, words tumbling. He's really strong. And loud. And when people talked about that baby getting killed, his voice cracked and he hugged his arms to his chest. Babies don't have quirks yet. They're tiny and can't protect themselves. Like how I am. I thought, if someone that's strong could hurt someone that couldn't fight back, then I could get hurt too. Because I don't have a quirk either. Just like the baby. He sniffed hard, rubbing his sleeve under his nose. So I was scared. Of your dad. Of villains. Of scary heroes. Just scary people, he finished, very quietly. I didn't know the truth before. But even now I'm still really scared. Izuku's hand shifted, resting warm and sure on the boy's shoulder. I understand, he said gently. I really do. I was quirkless too. For a long time. I am again right now. He gave a small, reassuring smile. Being scared, it just means you're human, Hiroshi. Katsuki cleared his throat. Izuku paused. Katsuki stepped forward, posture different now, no looming, no edge. His shoulders were relaxed, his expression unusually soft. Come here, he said gruffly, holding out a hand. Take a walk with me. Hiroshi stiffened instantly, spine going straight, eyes darting. Katsuki noticed. His face softened even more. Hey, it's fine, he said quieter. You don't gotta be scared. Slowly, hesitantly, Hiroshi placed his small hand into Katsuki's. Katsuki led him outside onto the balcony. The door slid shut behind them, muting the room. Cool air brushed over them. Katsuki leaned back against the railing, one arm resting along it, casual but grounded. He saw how stiff the kid looked. Staring up at him. You can breathe, Katsuki said. I'm not gonna yell. Hiroshi stared at his shoes, toes nudging the concrete balcony. How are you not scared all the time? He asked in a small voice. You're fearless. Katsuki snorted quietly. That's crap. Hiroshi blinked up at him. Huh. Everybody's scared of something, kid, Katsuki said. Me too. At times. He tapped himself with 2 fingers. Difference is, I learned how to hide it. How to shove it down and keep moving. That don't make me braver. Just louder. He shifted, eyes drifting out over the view. I bullied Izuku 'cause I was scared, he admitted flatly. Scared he'd pass me. Scared I wasn't as strong as I thought. Instead of dealing with that, I made it his problem. His jaw tightened. Worst mistake of my life. He looked back at Hiroshi. Being scary to survive? Katsuki continued. That works for a while. Then you end up hurting others. Angry. And worse off than before. Hiroshi nodded slowly, absorbing every word. So, you're like me too? Katsuki nodded. In a way. You could say that, kid. There was a long pause, giving Hiroshi a moment to think. You know, there's a kid saying bad stuff about Izuki, he said quietly. I want to stop it. If being scary isn't what I need to do, when I find out who it is, what should I do then? Katsuki considered him for a long moment. Let it go, he said. Hiroshi frowned. Why? 'Cause some things burn themselves out, Katsuki replied. People talk. Then they move on. And the stuff you throw out into the world. He shrugged. It circles back. Always does. You focus on doing it. Protect your friends. Don't become the thing you hate. Hiroshi swallowed, then nodded. A small, genuine smile tugged at his mouth. Okay. Katsuki gave the kid's head a light, awkward tap with his fingers. You're not a bad kid. Just gotta make better choices. And know that no matter what, heroes will always be there to keep you safe. So next time you get scared, just think of a better way to handle it that doesn't hurt others. Especially my daughter. He added a glare on the last words. I promise I will, Hiroshi said as he rushed up and hugged Katsuki's leg. Thank you. I don't feel as scared anymore. They stood there a moment longer, quiet, steady. Don't mention it, kid. Katsuki slid the balcony door open and guided Hiroshi back inside. The warm noise of the house rushed back in cartoon voices from the TV, Izuki's quick footsteps, the low hum of. Izuki spotted them immediately. She bounced up from the floor, eyes wide. Hiroshi, are you okay? Hiroshi hesitated for half a second, then lifted his sleeve, wiping at his cheeks. He took a breath, this time steadier, and smiled. A real one. Yeah, he said, voice still a little rough but lighter. I'm really okay. I've never been better. Izuki's face lit up. She grabbed his hand without a second thought. Good. Come on. Let's go play. And just like that, she dragged him off toward her room, their laughter trailing behind them, voices overlapping and bright. Katsuki stood there watching for a moment. Then warm arms slid around his middle from behind. Izuku pressed close, chin brushing Katsuki's shoulder, then he shifted, stepping around into his space. One hand came up to Katsuki's jaw, thumb warm against his cheek as Izuku leaned in and kissed him softly. It lingered, slow, grateful, unhurried. Thank you, Izuku murmured when he pulled back, forehead resting against his. Katsuki scoffed under his breath, but his hands came up anyway, gripping Izuku's wrists and keeping him there. What did you say to him out there? Izuku asked quietly. Katsuki shot him a look. Don't you dare make me repeat all that shit. Izuku huffed a laugh. Katsuki tugged him closer and kissed him back before letting his forehead drop against Izuku's. Demon kid is lucky I even said it at all. They broke apart just enough to look toward Izuki's room. Izuki and Hiroshi were sprawled on the floor, laughing hard over something stupid, completely at ease. Izuku leaned into Katsuki's side. Katsuki stayed there, arms crossing loosely, eyes fixed on the kids, a quiet pride settling into his chest. Happy that their kid now had a good friend that took so much after both of them.